Hello, everyone. This is the Duke London podcast, episode 48, and I'm here with an old friend, Olu Alatise. Hope everyone is doing good, had a good week. Check at thecapsule.ldn for all capsule-related business and UK street dance-related business. Anyway, how are you, Olu?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm chilling. Yeah. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you for having me. I'm like, can't believe I'm on the capsule. I'm just like,
I love that.
I made it. I've actually made
yeah,
it.
this is the mark of your success. This is the highlight of your career.
I'm done now.
Yeah, guys, I can retire.
I went on the capsule.
I spoke to Luke. That's it. Let's just cut the interview there. 3 minutes. Yeah, how are you? How's things? What's happening? Like you were telling me a bit off mic before, but like about what you're up to and stuff. But...
Yeah, so I've just like now my life is teaching. Recently quit my job full time. Been working full time for like maybe 17 years. Like
mad. Yeah, all in the same job?
No. So 8 of the years is been in the health and fitness industry.
So what were you doing in health and fitness?
So I was a studio manager at a physiotherapy clinic, and then before that I was a studio manager in a gym, and then so it's mainly been like within gyms, fitness, etc. But yeah, literally the last 17 years just been working back to back full time as well as teaching, and then about 3 months ago, and this actually happened on a program that Kate Prince and Tally collaborated on, the artist.
Yeah.
And I think that was when I did that program after the first week, that was the point that I was like, yeah, I need to do it now.
Oh man.
Yeah. So that program actually really solidified for me in my mind that the time is now.
What was it about the program that did that?
I think it was probably one of the first times that I've felt like free.
Mad.
And it's so like, it's actually weird saying it because I've been like dancing and teaching for so long.
Yeah.
So you would think, one would think that I'm not in shackles for so long. But I think it was just the way the program was facilitated and just the constant reminder that nothing in this life is solidified and it's okay to try. And your first go is not always a perfect go. I think something about that just triggered something in me, and it just made me think, even if I quit my job and what I intended doesn't work out, like it's okay, like I can still move on to other stuff. So
100%.
I literally on the last day of the first week of the program was when I typed out my resignation letter and I sent it.
That's a good I guess like it's a good review for Tally's program.
Thanks Tals, thanks Kate. It really was, and like honestly it felt like the universe was waiting for me to do that, because literally as soon as I sent it, Kingston Uni emailed me, so I started teaching there, and just all these like amazing opportunities in what I actually want to do, which is teaching, just started coming through.
You know what's mad is like, do you know Kino? She used to live here.
Yes, I do.
She told me,
lovely hair.
Yeah.
Lovely haircut. Yeah.
Good friend of mine. I fucking love Kino. She's probably not listening because she's out there killing life. But she told me something sick when we were talking, and she said, I think it's from a book. It might be like The Secret, or is that the Law of Attraction one?
Maybe it's the Law of Attraction or Secret. They're two different
books. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. But she told me this quote, and it really stuck with me. And she was like, in the book that she's referencing, they were talking about relationships, I think, like, and love. And they were like, basically, if you're looking for like a partner, you have to clear out half your closet, because it's more like I guess the point being is like, do you have space in your life for these things that you want? And it reminds me of what you're saying, where it's like you didn't like, because I think this is the way most people who I speak to, and I did for context, like I did the transition to freelance thing like as well, so I definitely like know where you're at. Like, how long has it been?
It's only been like 3 months.
I know where you're at.
And it's still scary. I'm not gonna lie, like every day, like it's still scary, and I'm like, okay, even though these jobs are here now, but at some point they're going to end. So like, is there going to be anything after?
I think that's,
so scary.
But yeah, I think like, what's cool is like, what most people think is that when you're working in a job and you want to move to freelance or whatever, it's like, or with whatever in life, you know, they're like, okay, well, we'll get really good at dance and I'll get an agent. And then when I start getting jobs and I get offered this 10 grand buyout, then I'll quit my job. And it's like, it doesn't work like that because most of the time, like in the realistic sense, you'll never have time to pursue the opportunities that you want. Like I was talking about this with a friend the other day, and it's like, he was talking about the same sort of thing, like leaving his job. And I was like, because he doesn't really know, and we were just talking about the industry and like who I could point him towards and stuff. And I was like, if you want to do these jobs, right, the first stage would be to get an agent. The agent is going to send you castings. If you're working, you can't go to the castings, you can't go to the fittings, you can't go to the rehearsals, you can't go to the shoot. Where are you going to get the money from? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the thing with what you're saying, like, where it's like, as soon as you open that space, maybe these calls that you got might have come before, but you didn't recognize them because you're like, oh, I can't, I'm working, or that's not something I'm interested in because I have a job, or, but as soon as you open up the space, it's like, you start to see it almost like a new,
so it's like a wall is like lifted. Okay, and you know, the job that I have, or most of the jobs that I've had, like, they've taught me so much, like, even though they weren't in dance, but they taught me about business and, you know, like all these things that I don't know if I would have learned if I weren't in those jobs. But I think I just love teaching so much that as soon as I felt like I wasn't giving 100% of myself to places that I was teaching, I just was like, I can't compromise something that I feel like I'm destined to do and to be.
That's dope.
So I just sent the resignation, and I was like, let's see what happens.
Sick.
And so far so good. Fingers crossed. Like it's been amazing, even for my mental health and just my peace of mind. Like it's just.
That's so sick.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So
and I have a feeling that feeling of, is this going to end at some point, will never go away. Like, I don't know, for me anyways, like I think it's been 3 years, but one of those years was pandemic year, but like that was fun. But I think for me it's like that's kind of what keeps me going, is like and I have to balance it from scaring the shit out of me and making me motivated, but like the feeling of like, what if I don't, you know what I mean? It's like, what if this is the last work I have? It's like, well, then I'm not going to turn down any work. I'm not going to, you know, even say, we were talking about the capsule a little bit, but like, even with this, it's like, I've been telling everyone, but it's like, I'm working like 2 days a week for free. And it's like on my, admittedly on my own thing that I started, but still I'm doing like a lot of work on this shit, even if it doesn't come out yet. But like, I have to know that, or let's put it this way, like, I need to make money to pay rent and to pay for my car and to pay for my bills. If I'm going to take 2 days out of my week that I can't make any other money, this has to work.
It has. 100%.
This is my mentality where I'm like, I'm not fucking around anymore. I can't afford to fuck around. Like, I'm not just like, oh yeah, let's just have some fun. And I'm like, no, I'm making something with this, or I'm giving up. Like I'm getting to a point where I've done everything I can and it's not working, or it's happening. But it's like, this is what makes me motivated to stay up till midnight editing the fucking podcast.
And you've been like mad consistent with it as well. Like we were saying, like off mic, that like a few people have tried, even me, like even I've like during the pandemic, like I was doing something called Afro Talk, which was more tailored to like to the Afro scene. And you know, like I did it like consistently every week for like a month. And then after I was just like, oh my God, I'm tired.
Yeah, but it's also like it depends what the, like, I think I saw a lot of stuff like that in the pandemic, and it was annoying because I started this in January of the pandemic year, and I decided at Christmas, and it was like January I started, and then it was March we went into the first lockdown, and then so everyone was doing talks, and I was like, I feel like another pandemic talk, but I planned this before. And I'm like, all I have to do is stay consistent. But I think it's a good thing that a lot of that happened in the pandemic, because it's like, you know, even if that wasn't the thing that you wanted to do for the rest of your life, it's like you still provided something for people.
And the conversations,
do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Important.
And like, who else is like? There's a lot of people that I think maybe realized they had a niche. Not that you realize that you had a niche with Afro, but like in terms of like you have something to talk about with it, as opposed to like just teaching. And Kieran did some light feet talks and stuff, and it's like, I think that's dope, especially as someone that cares about this, because it's like, I think we need more conversations. Like, even if it is for a month, like I think that's still dope that you did that, you know?
Thank you. Made me feel better.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fucking tough to be consistent. But that was also for me part of the business plan of this. Like I planned this for like the podcast. I kind of was like, let me just see what happens. The capsule and the whole like organization thing. I was like, if I'm going to start anything like as organized as this, the like business wise, it's like consistency is the key. Yeah. Nobody gives a shit if you do 3. Like, no. Do you know what I mean? It's like not like nobody gives a shit, but it's like even with I was saying like giving away all my secrets now, like of my zero success. Like, you know, with YouTube channels, I don't know if you watch stuff for like tutorials or anything on YouTube.
Sometimes.
But like for me, if I check a YouTube channel, whatever it is, I check the video, and then if it's like an entertainment thing or whatever, the first thing I do is check how many videos they have. Because if it's like they've got 3 videos and the last one was uploaded in like 2018, I'm like, I'm not going to even bother engaging, because if I get into this, there's no more.
Yeah.
But like, so I'm expecting that nobody's going to like care about the podcast until I've done a lot. And then they can go back and listen. But it's like, I have to kind of prove it to everyone that
That's actually a really good and interesting way to look at it, actually.
And it's like, I don't want to get into this thing of being like, nobody cares about me, I'm underrated, and blah, blah, all that shit that I hate about me. It's like, look, I'm going to provide something that you want. And if nobody wants it, nobody wants it. But, you know, I'm going to work.
It's definitely wanted though. Because we, like, not just in the Afro, but just in general in the dance community, I do feel like because dance is our language, so we don't actually get to sit down and like vocally, like verbally communicate with each other.
But when we do, the conversations are magic, innit? Like off mic, like even on that week on the thing, like I was there filming, but it's like I'm sitting there like just taking everything in, like and it's always these things, you know, like anyway, it's not about me, but like it's always these like.
But good, no, but well done though. Like you have to give yourself a little pat on the shoulder.
That's always nice to hear.
It's been, and how many episodes has it been?
48.
Only 48.
Only 48. We've got 48. 2 more planned, so we will be hitting 50 before the end of the year.
Like,
which is dope.
Come on.
I'm gassed about that.
That's fucking amazing.
And like for me also, it's like the people that got, even like you as well, like just I don't know, the fact that people actually want to come and sit down, and it's not a Zoom thing, so it's not like just log on and talk to me.
God, it's not a Zoom thing.
I hate them.
I'm so fed up.
I'm
At
done.
this point, like we need to buy shares and like. Like obviously some are necessary, like if you know if it's like an international conversation, but
I really haven't listened to any podcasts that have been on Zoom, that have been recorded on Zoom. Not? The only ones I've listened to, even the ones that I like, when they've done episodes where it's on Zoom, I'm like, I'm not listening. I
just can't.
Yeah, I can't do it.
No.
But let's get back to you.
Yeah.
So you're living the freelance life 3 months in.
I am.
So what's kind of because you said like that you feel like destined to teach, and I don't think I knew that about you. Like, do you see yourself more as a teacher than like a dancer or a performer?
Yeah, I do.
That's interesting.
And it is to a lot of people it's interesting because you're probably one of the few people that know how much I threw myself like into dance and training. Like I think there was a point where I was training 7 days a week with like different people, you included.
Yeah, true.
Like I think you were on one day, and then Boy Blue were another day, and then Rhymes was on another day, and then I was in like Nexus. If anyone remembers Nexus, I'm showing
whose
my
group
age
was
now.
Nexus again? I do remember.
His name was Mega back then, but now he goes by Dante.
Oh, I did a fucking job for him.
Did you?
Yeah, it fucking wasn't very well paid.
So
but...
I'm done. I like really threw myself into dance and training and jobs and auditions, blah, 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 blah. But I think, teaching, well, at the time when I first started teaching, quote unquote, to me, it was just, I was creating choreography that I thought was good, and I just wanted someone else to learn it. But I think as I started to enjoy it more and saw how people were receptive to how I taught and what I taught, I just wanted to delve into it more. And I just enjoy like being a part of people's growth and just seeing people's journeys. Like I can't quite explain it in words, like what it is about it that I enjoy seeing people's growth. But for me, it's like an honor for someone to say I learnt from her, and then they go on to do amazing things.
100%.
Like that's,
or even if you like unlock something that they wouldn't have unlocked it by themselves. You're like, fuck, like, I did, like, not in a selfish way, but kind of like, they wouldn't have got to this thing that makes 100%. Them happy if I hadn't just turned that little
100%, exactly. And not just like the physicality of it, as in like, you know, the foundations or techniques, but even the life lessons, like you know, like as well as anyone else, that teach, it's not just like it's so, the energy it drains from you, like mentally and physically, like it's a lot, like you're investing quite a lot in your students. So but I love it. So teaching officially full-time, freelance, 3 months in, and I hope it continues to go well.
I'm sure it will. Sure it will. I can't imagine you struggling. Like, obviously there's always going to be struggles, like everyone has struggles, but I can't imagine in a year's time you'd be like, it didn't work, I went back.
I won't even let that happen.
Like, that's the thing. That's what I mean. It's like, you're going to do it. And for you to get to the point of actually leaving your job, you're ready. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you had got like fired and you're like, well, I guess I'll try, you know, it's like, okay, maybe then, I don't know. But like, I feel like for you to be like, nah, this is the time. It's like, you've thought about it, you're ready. Like, I believe in you.
Thank you.
Anytime, mate. Because with the teaching as well, do you feel like, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but like, do you feel like things have changed since like we were more training like choreo wise, where whenever I was doing it, I always felt like it was, class was more like training to maybe like work towards a show or become a better choreographer, to, I don't know, work as a choreographer or do auditions or whatever. Whereas now I feel like there's like a whole culture of class, and maybe like I was too much of a nobody to get that before. Like I feel like there was.
Why are you that, like, don't make me go into like counseling mode right now. Like, you said it about 3 times now and I've been side-eyeing it, and I'm like, let me just wait. Like, maybe he's just doing it on the off track, but that's the 3rd time you said that.
Sorry.
You are not. No.
I forgot you. I forgot you. I forgot you wanted to
off now for you. So there's like a whole culture now of like class.
Because like, I don't know, I think there was, in the terms of like when I used to go, like I was like, you used to do like, I mean, this is how I guess we get to know each other, is like being in that circuit, and I would go like AG and flowography and all them classes. But I feel like now it's like, you know what, this is the thing for me. I feel like there's people now who are known as teachers and they travel the world because they're a good teacher, but they don't actually work in the industry, like not in a bad way, but as in like, they're not like, I feel like whenever I was doing classes before, it was people who worked in the industry and had a class, and you're like, I want to learn from them because of who they work with.
That was the channel to get to a job.
Or that's why people were known, is like, oh, we're like, I don't know, Kenrick or Tony or Nathan Gordon. It's like these people that were working and then they would teach a class as well as the side thing. And then it would get packed because they're dope. But now it's like there's people that as far as I can tell, there's people that like never really were like dancers or choreographers in the, let's say like commercial world, but they're just part of the class and the workshop circuit now and doing these camps, and
it's like its own category almost.
Is that something new, or has that always been there?
Do you know what? Now that you've said it, I'm kind of deep in it, and I'm like, actually, maybe it is actually quite a new thing, but I think it's a positive thing.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think now, like, you speak to some people who just teach, like you said, and they don't necessarily, or they haven't worked like in the commercial industry per se, but they have this skill. And I think it's because people are unlocking different ways to be in the creative industry and to be in the dance industry, and that was one thing that wasn't maybe there before.
It's just like, it's either this or nothing.
And because the industry's like grown so much.
Oh well, that's annoying.
That's cute.
The lights have just gone off, so we're going to turn them back.
I think it's because it's automatic. Or sensors, sorry. There we go.
Oh, that gives me more editing work to do.
Oh, no.
And we're back. The lights just went out. Or maybe I don't even edit this, and maybe you know that the lights just went out because I've left everything in. It depends how lazy I've been. We'll see. Only time will tell. Class taking scenario.
So I think people are unlocking like different ways of being in the creative industry, because also, if we're going to be real, not everyone can get into the commercial industry. So then I guess it's like, well, if I don't get into the commercial industry, does that mean that I'm no longer, do I stop chasing dance? It's like the social media era as well. Now, like there are people who are solely known as dancers on the platform, whereas outside of that, you may not see them in class, you may not see them traveling or teaching, but as far as social media platform goes, they dominate that.
And also it's like it's its own thing in a way, which it always has been, but maybe it's more recognized now. Like I know people that practice a freestyle style, let's say, and cypher and train, but they never battle, and it's like, that's fine, you know. Like, if
what do you think is it
okay, that's a different, like,
sorry.
I think in essence it's fine. Like, I think for me that's the same sort of thing as taking class but not working. It's like, what, because like the question would be, what are you training for? And but it's like the training itself can be fun, and if you're paying, and you know, let's say like if you go and take someone else's class, you're learning, but then you're going to teach and you're going to get paid, and it's like, why can't that be a thing, you know? I think it's the same with, in essence, with like freestyle styles, where it's like, if you just want to like, and maybe even more because part of the culture was built off like ciphering at parties and stuff. So especially like, say if you're like a house dancer and you just cipher and go to clubs and stuff and don't battle, a lot of people would say that's more authentic than if you were just a battlehead and not, you know what I mean? I think it also depends on, there's a lot of factors, like with cultural things, like if you're a locker, we were having this, you know, I don't know if you saw the post.
I sure did. I sure did.
You were there with your popcorn.
I was there.
But like, if you're a locker but you only like take class, then okay, you take class and then what? Like, are you contributing to the culture? I don't know. Like, it depends, and you know, maybe there's a conversation to have the culture moved, but then it's like, something like locking is a great example, because it's like, all right, it's not being seen anywhere, but if there's classes thriving, it's like, what are these people doing with it elsewhere? And can the culture only exist within a classroom, like in a studio? Like, does it need to be in battles or jams? But then the other side of me is like, we can't force people to go and have fun. It's like, if they don't want to have fun, then don't make them. So I don't even know really where the answer is, but this is kind of the parallel.
Yeah, I think so. But then with that, like, I get what you mean. You can't force people to, and sometimes some of these things are like logistics and, you know, the things that we had back then, like choreographers, like they're not here. But even within that, like, there are, you know, groups of people that have created a similar environment, even if it might be in a studio, but they've tried to maintain that culture. But then how far does it go before the authenticity of it is lost? Do you know what I mean? So 100%. Although you can't force people, how far do you let it go?
Yeah. And I think it's fine to let it go if the authentic side stays. You know what I mean? So it's like, I guess, if I take a random example, like, you know, these like b-boys that do like hip-hop theater stuff, and it's like barely breaking anymore, but you know, they started as breaking, which I think is dope. But it's like, I think there's maybe less pushback against something like that because breaking is thriving big time. So it's like, you go and do your weird little whatever you want to do while we do this other shit. So it's fine to split it. But I think maybe that's the thing with locking, where there's not anything else besides this. So if you take it left, the whole thing is going left. Like, there's nothing. That's right. But you know what I mean? there's nothing to anchor it or for it to be an offshoot of. It's just, that's now the movement.
Got you.
I don't know.
Makes sense. It makes sense. It's, I mean, I don't want to speak too much on the locking thing. I'm scared.
I'll make sure that's the clip that we post.
But I guess in context, like the industry that, not the community that I'm in, the Afro community. Yeah. I think even if you're not in the Afro community, like, everyone can kind of see like the waves of where it goes. It's like, okay, it starts as this authentic thing, and then social media comes into play, and it's like, is it affecting it or is it helping it thrive? But then you like, we can't get rid of social media. Do you know what I mean? And I can't impose how I started the style on, like, I can't impose that on someone who was born in 2012 because what they know is that. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, so then if I allow that to just let it be what it is, and then they pass that on to someone else, and then they create this new and then they by the time you look back, the authenticity is just a tiny spectacle. So there is a bit of a struggle with like, how much do you say and how much, and there's always this word that people use that you're policing the culture and you're gatekeeping it too much, and who are you to gatekeep and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, I get it, like, but at the same time, if nobody does, and this goes for any style, if nobody does, then how far do you let it go? And then in 2050, what does it look like?
To be completely honest with you, that's what I think is happening with hip hop, the style. Like, like, not that nobody's policing it, because there's plenty of people trying to police it, but like, what is it? Like, I'll get into this at some point in the capture, I'm sure, but like, where everyone's like, oh, the foundations is the bounce. It's like, okay, cool. Like, pick out like any 20 hip hop dancers, how many of them are using the bounce, and how much are we judging it? How many people are making it to finals and stuff without the bounce? So then when people are like, oh yeah, it's essential you use the bounce, it's like, well, it's not at all essential, because plenty of people can get to finals without it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and I've been one of them. So it's like, it's not like, it's not what we're saying it is. There's a massive disconnect, and I also think there's a lot of people in denial about the disconnect. They're like just looking at someone stand still and they're like, no, he's bouncing, trust me, you have to know, you have to see it. It's like, shut the fuck up, like. Do you know what I mean? But it's like let's not be in denial. You know, it's like an OG does a really shit round and everyone's like, whoa, like, no, you have to really understand the technique. It's like you're just like convincing yourself that you're seeing something you're not, because and it's the same with a lot, I think, with a lot of the shit in hip hop. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think it's like the style is changing, right? Let's take hip hop as an example. The style is for sure changing since even like 2005, 6, 7, right? And even before that, it was way different. It used to, like, New Jack Swing like type of dancing used to be like a foundational part. No one does that now, you know? And it's not even judged or part of the, you know, anyway. And what was my point? It's like you have to look at like, all right, because the thing is, what's annoying as well is a lot of the newer dancers and people that aren't necessarily doing the bounce in the way that, you know, blah, 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 are amazing dancers. So it's like, do we cuss them out and tell them you're shit or blah, blah, blah? And then they rebel against, and it's not really me, it's more the OG people, like, like even like the Twins or something. It's like, are you going to tell the Twins you're not doing hip hop? And then they turn around and say, well, fuck you, we are. Now everyone who's like a fan or a student has got to pick between these us boring old people who say it's not the thing, or these cool, exciting dancers who say it's, and then you split the culture even more. But then if you don't say anything, it just goes that way anyway, and you kind of are part of it. Like, it's like, how do you get that right?
Do you think, so what's the, we'll speak about hip hop because that's the topic that we're on. Because someone asked me the other day, and they're like, well, where's the line between someone who may have trained in hip hop and the dancer that they are now? You can't necessarily see, like, you know, the bounce and like the essence and the foundation, etc. But it's cultivated, I guess, the new dancer or the way of moving that they are now. So is it that maybe the older guys aren't able to see the influence, or is it that no, it's completely dissipated, that is not hip hop, that's not it at all?
I think,
where's the line?
That's a very good question. I think for me, but again, this is the thing, I'm kind of trying to speak about it objectively, because if anything, I'm on the side of the new kids. If you know what I mean. Like, I was one of the people that, like, I got cussed a lot for like not having bounce and stuff in my hip hop, or not doing it enough, or not looking like Kashmir enough. Do you know what I mean? Like,
not looking like Kashmir.
But it's like, you know, it was, and you know, Kashmir's like a friend of mine, and we've debated and spoken, you know, loads, and he's actually helped me so much, so not to cuss him, but a lot of people would look at the way he does, especially when I was doing it, because there wasn't loads of us, like Kashmir and Kieran were the people that like do hip hop correctly, and I was someone who's like, oh yeah, you dance nice, but you know, it's not really hip hop. So if anything, I'm on that side of things. I think there's the way the style has been policed and guided by the older people, I think has been the problem. Because I think if the style had developed, and the problem is that hip hop is, because of the music, it's the only style that dances to such a quickly changing style of music. Like all the other poppy music has kind of been poppy music. You know, you get these beat makers and stuff, but locking music, house, I don't know, mate, how much house music has changed structurally, but like hip hop has gone from, in 20 years or whatever, has gone from like, it
has changed a lot,
you know, like Crisscross and people like that to like Future. And it's like, that's a big fucking change in this short of a time. So what, and you know, admittedly, I don't know that how I would have done anything any better, but I think the way that it's been, we've been told like, no, it has to be done how it was on Boom Bap, even though the music is changing. No, you have to do it how it was done on Boom Bap. It's like, it was such a stronghold that instead of like embracing it, people just cut it off and went, no, I'm doing whatever I want to this music. Whereas if it was a bit more loose and was like, all right, guys, the music is changing, like in a metaphorical sense, like it's like the music is changing, like let's talk about how you do keep the bounce, but on fucking like, Future or Migos or something. I was talking about this on the capsule, but like that style of music still has a bounce to it, and people in clubs are still dancing to the shit like with a bounce. So we just needed a bit more guidance on how to update the bounce and stuff to that, as opposed to like, you have to do Running Man and all the social dances from the 90s on this new music, and we're like, but it feels shit, why? So people have, I think, eventually just went fuck it and are doing whatever they want.
I get it, and I'm trying to put myself in that position because I'm not going to mention no names, but they know who they are. Myself and like a few other people in the Afro community. We have probably been that way. And
I was definitely going to ask you about all this. So this is good.
And been, I guess I will use the word police because that is the word that people have used, like policing it and gatekeeping. So I'm trying to answer, I want to answer it as someone who has been told
you're on that side
like
of it.
You are policing or you're gatekeeping or you're doing too much or I think the word that comes to mind is fear. And I think with dance, like the fear comes in because you love it and value 100%. It so much. And you recognize what it's done for you. And it could be something like really personal. Maybe it saved you from the streets, or like it helped your mental health. So you're attaching your creativity with your personal. Again, I can only speak for myself. So when you're being able to, you're policing, it's not that like I'm trying to dictate like to anyone like how to do anything, but I just don't want the tradition to be lost. So I don't think it's necessarily the message. I think it's that maybe how it's been delivered, maybe.
Can I definitely agree. But before you carry on that train of thought, can I ask you, like, what is something that, do you have an example of like where you would want to step in or say something? Because I don't know that I've seen a lot of this. Obviously I'm not in the Afro community, so as much as I follow you and stuff like that, I don't know that I've been paying attention. But like, so what is something that you're like, oh, this is an issue that we speak about or that we don't want to happen?
I'll give you an example. So an example, this happened a lot. There was a lot of conversation about this in the Afro community during the pandemic. And it was when Afro became quite big on social media, and a lot of people thought that it was watered down. And it just
so like TikTok shit.
And it wasn't authentic enough, and it, you know, and there was like a lot of like misinformation or not even crediting like a style at all, which I think is quite important because that's how shit gets lost. So there was a lot of that happening, and you know, a lot of teachers were born because of the social media. Like, you know, you have a viral social media challenge and people want you to teach it all over wherever.
And then next thing you know, you taught the style, the challenge, and now you're like, for my next workshop, I'm going to teach something new. Next thing you know,
and now everyone refers to you as a teacher, right? And that was like a big thing, like a conversation that was happening. And it was kind of like the divide was basically like, you shouldn't be teaching anything if you aren't knowledgeable to a certain level. You don't have to be like fucking perfect, but to a certain level. But I think the other side of the argument was, at the end of the day, like, this is a new like a new career path, should I call it, that's been born from the pandemic, etc., which is amazing, which is great. And if I make a challenge and people are receptive to it and they like it, why can't I book a studio and teach my challenge? And I'd like, I don't think it's that, like, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't even know you're chatting shit, like whatever. It wasn't even that, but I think it was the danger of shit getting lost and you creating this amazing platform for yourself and wanting to share it with the world. So I think there was a lot of like headbutting with that. But I think now those conversations actually kind of helped. And I think it's still not like, you know, it's not like everyone's kumbaya-ing in the Afro community, but I think there's a lot more understanding because it's a new thing. Like we didn't have like Instagram back then. Like you weren't teaching challenges and then 2 weeks later you were teaching. Like there was no way that could happen. We were asking permission to teach that back in the day.
Although do you reckon that was more like our version of that was talent shows? You win Britain's Got Talent and you're holding a workshop.
That's true.
There was a few like,
that's true.
I don't know if it was like George Sampson or any of them type of people.
That's true.
Where you see them cheating and you're like, you're 12 and you won a competition.
Not 12.
Like, well, I don't know anything about George Sampson, but
true. That's
whoever,
true.
I don't know, that would be maybe my first thought of that era.
But I think what is working at the moment is, although those conversations, like we're not having these conversations every single week, where in the pandemic, like it felt like it was on Clubhouse. I was doing lives, people were doing lives. Even it wasn't even just in Long, it was transcending like into France and like Netherlands were getting, like it was like the whole community in its entirety. But I think now what's happening is there's an unspoken level of respect now where like I get what you're doing and I respect what you're doing, and let's keep it a buck. Like I couldn't do what some of these like social media influencers are doing. I'm not gonna lie and say like if I wanted to, I couldn't. I don't have like the facilities for that. Like it's not my thing.
It's not easy to be like an influencer.
It's not. But I think what's happening is like there's an understanding. So I get what you're doing. And it's great because you're reaching a demographic that I can never reach, regardless of how amazing I am as a teacher. And it's amazing that people in like all these different countries now know what African music is, like what, you know, Afro dance is.
And there might be a percentage of people that see an influencer but then seek out the real shit. You know what I mean? Like
exactly. But I think like indirectly, like people are actually starting to like want to know their shit a bit more, even if it's just like the tiniest thing, even if it's I use the most basic moves in this particular style, but because I know where it's from and I know the steps, I know the creators, I know like, you know, the foundation of it, even if that's all I'm sticking to and that's all I'm carrying through with me, at least it's the correct information. So I think on that end, social media wise, there is like more of a want to know stuff, and
because everyone pushed back.
And then I think on our end, like there is more of an understanding that like, look, we can't reach the people that they can't reach. Like we can't hold on to this style and keep it in our bubble. Like that's not what our culture and this style demands. That's not what it's about. It is about like reaching as many people as possible. So I would like to think, or maybe I'm just living in La La Land, I don't know, but I would like to think that there is like a good balance at the moment. Obviously there's still like, you know, the people who are just on some BS. But I think I'm just too old now to be bad. What I do is I have my classes, certain in like Home Bros, Corey, Pate, like there's loads of people who have their classes. I'm going to teach what I teach to the best of my fucking capability. Like we're going to fucking enjoy ourselves, but you're going to fucking train hard as fuck. You're going to know this culture and I'm going to do everything I can in my capability. And that's all I can do.
100%.
I can't force people to want to know like, you know, more. Oh, and there we go again. There we do go. It's because we're in the corner as well.
Do you reckon it's a sensor?
I reckon.
That's so annoying.
I reckon.
Wouldn't happen in the other room. Not really anything I'm going to be able to do, is it?
That's all right.
And we're back.
Yeah, at the moment, I think it's I think at the moment it's going at a steady, nice pace, but there are obviously times where it has gotten very heated in the community, and you can't help but stand up for something that you love, because if you see it like being tainted or lost, like of course you're going to get that innate need to. I'm not gonna lie, even when like back in the day with hip hop, like when Kashmir was like on it, like I did used to feel like, oh my god, calm, like
leave us alone.
Jesus. But now maybe it took for me to like be in that position to understand, which I'm sorry, Kashmir,
sorry for doubting you,
but I get it, but I do stand by, sometimes it's not it's the delivery.
100%.
Really cool. You don't have to cuddle people, you don't have to like soften your tongue or anything, but the delivery is definitely
this is all my thing with the whole any of the shit is like what's the objective? The objective is for the culture to be like respected. And for me, I'm like, all right, what's the best way to do that? Like, is the best way to do, even with this, the best way for me, I think, to affect change in the scene is to have in-depth conversation and talk, right? So it's like, whatever your thing is, like, find the best way to do that, not the way that your emotions tell you. Like, I want to cuss everyone out on a status is like, and this is like where I think I felt the same as Kashmir a lot of times in terms of like the things that he's saying. And even though I dance a certain way, I don't teach the way I dance, if that makes sense. I teach the way the style should be done. So I've always taught the bounce on the rock and stuff. When I go into a battle and just do fucking tutting in hip hop and then get cussed for it, that's my choice. But I teach it the way it's supposed to be done. You guys take it in your direction and be creative with it. But I learned how to do the style and I chose not to do it properly. But I think it's like, okay, if the point is we want these people to recognize it and to respect it, the more you shout at people and cuss them, the less they're going to listen.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
100%.
And this,
100%.
And like that happened to me a lot. Like, I don't know if I should go into the stories, but like I got cussed by like respected people and OGs and stuff when I was nobody and I wasn't even in big battles. So I'm like, what the fuck are you cussing me out? I'm nobody. Do you know what I mean? Like I literally was nobody. But I got cast, or like people would say stuff either behind my back or like on Facebook statuses, stuff like that. Like, again, and this is me in a small, very small like niche of London hip hop in like 2010. Imagine like, you know, people on a big world stage. But I'm like, the few times it happened to me, I was like, well, fuck you. Like, I'm not coming to your class to learn the foundations after you cuss me out. Especially you're a grown up adult. I'm 17 and you know what I mean? It's like, it just doesn't make me give a shit about the style anymore. Whereas the people that, like, even Kashmir is one of them. Like, Kashmir never cussed me or I mean, not to my face. Maybe he did behind my back. But like, he never cussed me or he told me, I don't think you're doing hip hop, right? And I was like, totally fair enough. I'm still going to do it. But you know what I mean? Like, he told me, but he helped me and like we trained together and he taught me a lot of shit. Like, I credit Kashmir with a lot of my knowledge in hip hop, even if I don't dance anything like him. But because he taught me, and same with like Clara or any of those kind of that generation who taught me hip hop stuff, they explained to me why this stuff was important and how to use it. And then I went, okay, cool. And like now I probably use a bounce way more than I ever used to. Because people stopped fucking being dicks about it and just spoke to me like a normal person. And I imagine that on like that's because I knew them as well. Like, imagine people that don't know you and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, all these fucking kids, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be like, well, who the fuck are you? Like, so anyway, I think, delivery is the key.
100%. And I think that's probably why, like, in the Afro community, those conversations weren't really working, because it like, I'm not gonna lie, we were really passionate about it, and it was like, no, like, I don't give a shit, like, if you've got 1 million followers, like, stop it now, stop it.
Especially in the pandemic, everyone was like stressed and
exactly. And I think now, like, if I'm speaking, like, you can't speak at people, you can still be blunt and matter of fact about what you're saying, but I think at the end of the day, like, I'm not trying to chase people away from like this style or this community. Like, that's not my intention. So I don't think that's any of our intent. I don't think that's Kashmir's intent. I don't think that was intention. I just think sometimes your passion can override.
And you're pissed and it's something that you care about. And like, I don't know. necessarily what the demographic is like in Afro and the influence and stuff, but especially for hip hop, when it's like people, I guess, like even like the people from New York, or like even just black people, and then you get these like white choreographers that are like, you know what I mean, or like something like that, where it's like, this is just making us even more pissed because you're just like culturally appropriating as well as just fucking up the style, you know what I mean? It's like adds layers to why you're pissed, you know.
There's definitely a lot of that.
This is what I was going to ask you about actually with the Afro stuff. Like, first of all, what's the correct way to say Afro dance?
Oh, Luke, you are opening up a can of worms.
Because my thing is that I know there's moves, and again, everyone listening, I have very limited knowledge of the style which you do, which we'll get to what we call it. But I know there's, and I'm not trying to speak on it like an expert at all. Please don't make me part of those conversations. I know there's moves from different places, right? And I know there's certain moves you're like, all right, this is like a South African one. This is like a Ghanaian move, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, are there whole styles of like, oh, this is Ghanaian dance, this is South African dance? I would assume so. And in which case, is Afro dance the continental umbrella, like street dances for hip hop, pop, and lock it, you know what I mean? And then you have
exactly
each.
What you mean, yeah.
And does anyone do just one country's style?
Yeah, so this was like a huge conversation, like around the world.
Okay.
Like, because some people were, I think especially when you are living in the Western world, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're influenced by a lot. Like, a lot of us are trained in like hip hop, breaking,
Sure.
etc. So you're probably gonna see that in how we move, like how we move hair. Us who do Afro hair is very different to. We're doing the same steps, but it's very different if you look at someone from Nigeria or Ghana or even South Africa. In terms of the name, the styles do have specific. They are like individual styles on its own. So
is it mostly country based or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So each country will have like their own. This is just if you're looking at like, we're not even looking at traditional.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah,
Just
so
where it's at now.
Yeah. So where it's at now. So like Ghana, you have like Azonto. South Africa, you have like a Mapiano or Bom, Benga.
And it's not a traditional dance, but it's like a dance that's developed in that place. Like Light Feet is New York kind of thing.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. So like Ghana, for instance, like a lot of steps is Azonto, right? What we do now, well, what I do anyway, Azonto, but it was born from a traditional style called Banlogo.
Okay.
I mean, some people know, some people don't, which is cool. But like a lot of those styles will have like a before, if that makes sense historically. But yeah, each country will have like their own like specific style. I think what was happening is there was a lot of fusion happening. So like a lot
here or in Africa?
Here.
Okay.
Here. I mean, it does happen in Africa, but definitely mainly here, America, everywhere, basically. And I think the more the style grew, the more it was like, what are we calling it? Because no one's being specific, and no one wanted to be, I say no one, but like people didn't want to be specific because people quite enjoy fusing.
Yeah, of course.
Enjoy fusing. But then there was like an issue with saying Afrofusion, because then a lot of people, let's be real, like you have an hour and a half class. If I put 10 steps in my groove, 2 of them are from Nigeria, 2 of them are from South Africa, 2 of them are from Ghana, 2 of them are from Tanzania. Like, do you really think I'm like teachers are breaking down all those steps in that hour and a half? So what was happening is things were getting lost and people weren't even knowing where things were from. So then Afrofusion was a problem, and then Afro dance was also an issue. And like, so I think now people just say Afro, one, because it's just easy to say. It's a marketing thing as well, let's be real. And I think it's just the easiest umbrella term. But
reminds you a bit of the hip hop theatre conversation.
But you will get some teachers who are specific about, like, so my class, I call it Azonto stroke Afrofusion. So and no one can't tell me that I can't say Afrofusion. And I'll explain why. So like, I have trained the most in Azonto. Like, I've dedicated like 4 or 5 years training, studying, researching, etc. So technique wise, foundation wise, like even choreography wise, like it's always going to be Azonto. I say fusion because I'm not going to dismiss the 10, 12, 13 years that I trained in hip hop. Or that Sean was making me do fucking locks for 3 hours. Like, I'm not, like, there's no way. Or, do you know what I mean? Or like just the movement quality of popping, like the starts and stops. Like, I'm not going to dismiss that. So the fusion for me, I can't speak for anyone else, for the fusion for me isn't necessarily that I'm throwing in like 100 different steps from 10 different places. The fusion for me is more the movement quality.
Like kind of almost recognizing that I'm gonna add other bits to this dance, which I know the origins and I know how to do it in its pure essence, but this is me like recognizing that I'm adding to it.
And if I choreograph something that is strictly a zonto, I'm going to call it an zonto routine. And that's just what it's going to be. But if I choreograph I listen to like a lot of like drill music. So if I choreograph Afro routine on a drill song, like chances are like I'm probably going to do some hits. And I'm probably going to do a little bounce here and there, or I'm probably going to do this zonto step, but I don't know, break it into 3 different, do you know what I mean? So it might resemble what you might see in popping. I don't know. That's where my fusion comes from. But definitely. I think now it's just easy to just say Afro.
Yeah, fair.
And I think it's just students' responsibility to know who the teacher is and know that regardless of what they even call in their class, that you are going to get the right knowledge and technique. I think that's just the easiest way to go about it.
It's a bit like hip hop as a style, I guess. Or any style really, because like, I don't know, just off the top of my head, it's like hip hop has a lot of different influences, let's say from, well, all over America. But even if we're here, you have like, not only America, but you have like certain steps that are from New York, certain steps that are from like Atlanta, LA, whatever. But then you've also got like, you might have influences of like UK grime culture and stuff in the way that we do hip hop here. So then it's like saying hip hop is like, it's all these different bits. Coming together in a way.
And because it's just such a melting pot, and because it's like we're living in the now, it's like people like to do this and mix. And I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with it. But I think as long as, because you're passing that information on, I definitely think that it is important, like that you're specific.
To be honest with you,
things can get lost like so much.
Yes. I think this is part of what I don't like about locking, not to just shit on locking this whole podcast, but this is what I don't like about locking. It's like, I feel like a lot of the other styles from a hip hop perspective, like, and a battle perspective, are like updating and more moves are being added and considered like part of it where they weren't before, and now they, you know what I mean? Whereas with locking, I just feel like, and this is admittedly coming from someone that I didn't train extensively in locking, but also I'm not a stranger to the style, you know, I'm not just someone off the street. So it's like, it's just like limited in the amount of things that are considered part of the style, I think. And then things, it's like, oh, well, that's not locking anymore. And it still happens with like popping, where it's like, oh, you're not doing popping anymore. But there's a wider range of what those things are, which makes it more fun to do for me, and more the ability to be creative and look different is there. Like, you can be a specialist in waving, or like, look at Marvel with like Robot, you know. There's like other things that he doesn't do loads of, but because he's so good at Robot, like, he has his identity. And I think when the style is like too just one thing, it's hard to people to get into it. I think it's the line between like trying to limit and police someone's creativity, and like still preserving what the style is. I think it's like you have to preserve it in its growth. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to just preserving what it is, because then it becomes static. It's like, right, this is going to grow, but let's guide how this shit grows. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. Like this topic of what it's called and names, like, it has been.
It's not just me.
It's been a topic like for a while. It's been a topic for a while, and it's still a topic, even though like now people have just settled and just say, I'm just gonna say Afro. I mean, there are certain names where it's like an absolute no. Like, so saying like you're teaching an Afrobeats class for me is like.
Is Afrobeats what the music is called, or not even?
It's just the music. Like,
okay.
But like, I think when you call your class something, right? So let's say Afrobeats, for example. What you have to question, what is the background of it? What is the steps that would fall under it? What is the foundation of it? What are the techniques? So if I come to that, what is it? If it's just choreography, it's fine. It's just call it choreography class. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. I just think if you, this is why I'm such an advocate for, if you know your shit, no one can sway you.
Yeah.
Like, I will call my class Olu. Like, people you're still gonna know.
Yeah.
And that's not even in a big headed way.
No.
Like, but if you know, like, you can call your class and people are still gonna know exactly what it is that they're gonna get from you. You know that when you walk into my class, the first 15, 20 minutes, you're going to do cardio. The second half an hour, 45 minutes, you're going to drills and techniques. And the last however much time is left, like, we're going to do choreography. That's what you're going to get. Like, I'm going to give you the names. The next week you come, I'm going to ask you what them names I gave you. Well, where is it from? Yeah, I'm going to ask you that. That's what you're going to get. Like, so I don't know. The names thing sometimes it is really jarring. It's just like, oh my God, what are we doing here? Like, seriously. But at the same time, like, I do get why it's like, it's really important.
And I think it's also, maybe not for the people who are doing it properly, but the people that are going to take the piss is like, you have to have a thing of what be able to say to them, you can't call it that because of this.
Yeah, because you can't help but think like, well, what's going to happen in 10 years? What's it going to be called? You know what I mean? And like, maybe it's because, it's interesting. Someone said to me it said to me a few weeks ago that isn't it always interesting that it's mainly us here or in America that care so much about like the preservation, like the names and blah, blah. But that people in Africa, you never really see them speak on these things. And I actually was like, why is that? They're living it.
Yeah.
They're living it. Yeah. Like, do you think that they're sitting down discussing that they're living it? Like, I think it's because we're in the Western world. I think maybe there is that fear of like, oh, I'd like, because we're not living back home, like we have to protect it. Like we can't, no, you're not calling it. I don't call it that.
Also, I wonder, and you can fill in the gaps for me on this. I wonder if there's something about, how do I phrase this? If the people who in Africa who do this style, if it's cultural as opposed to like, which I think a lot of these dancers are not set people that pioneered the styles. They're cultural things that have developed.
In the streets.
As opposed to like popping, which we can kind of narrow it down to a group of people, right? So I wonder if there's less accountability if it goes left for those people, because I know, like, let's say the people in New York who created Light Feet, if they're like a specific people, like I don't know exactly how many, but there's a specific amount of people who created the style of Light Feet. Same with Crump, you know, I guess it's like 2 or 3 people, right?
Yeah.
So if that shit goes off, and if it goes off and people are making money off the off side of it, then those people are literally going, you motherfucker, like, what? Why I'm working in retail and you're making like 4 figures off classes or whatever. So I wonder if that's more of a thing where it gets like the need for it to be preserved, because it's like almost as a respect thing or as a way of like, well, we even if, you know, like say in hip hop or breaking, where maybe, I don't know, the pioneers aren't so like, I don't know. I don't know if I would say they're not as forceful about it, but maybe like it's almost like a respect thing to them. Like, okay, maybe some of them aren't alive or whatever, but they went through shit to like make this for us. Whereas if in Africa, it's like, it's more of a cultural thing. There's no one person that feels a way about you, like an influencer making money off it or something. That's a good point.
I mean, you do get some stars who have like, I guess, you know, the people who pioneered it, where that's how people got to know about it.
Okay, right.
But you are right in terms of like, it's kind of like it's an our thing. It's ours.
Yeah.
It's a culture thing. It's the Nigerian style. It's ours. It was made on the streets. It was.
Yeah.
So that could be that's a good point. But I think that's why like there are a lot of people now that are trying to look into like documenting stuff and finding who the creators were. Where
because I'm sure
wasn't necessarily like a.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Damn it! I should say very unprofessional.
Yeah, doesn't make me look good. Might just leave all these in just to show people I'm a fraud.
Yeah. what was I saying?
There
are people who are like, you know, trying to develop like platforms and stuff to like document things and document like the names of steps and even step names. Like it's such a big thing now, like because like there is a whole thing around preserving. But I do definitely think like documentation and stuff, like in a lot of these African dance forms, you can't just go on Google and like type. With some of them you can, but like it's not like you would get like a whole, you know, encyclopedia and you can just read it and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm trained now.
And it's been quite a quick growth.
So quick, yeah, really, really quick. So I think I'm all behind like documentation and like giving credit where it's due, even if we don't know the specific person who did this specific step or move, but like, you know, attributing it to a group of people or like a particular tribe, or do you know what I mean? I do think like that's.
I think the hard thing with stuff like this is, and I think this is something that gets missed with a lot of stuff, especially in the dance cultures, let's say, like the people that are the problem are the people that don't care. That's why they're the problem, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like and you know, I did this with hip hop for a while. It's like we kind of almost preach to the choir. Mm-hmm. Like we're telling each other this stuff. Even fucking people listening to this podcast are people that already care about us. So do you know what I mean? It's like even whatever we say now, guaranteed, like most of the people listening to this for either like people that came to listen to me or came to listen to you already agree with what we're gonna say. So it's like, I think this is the thing where it's like with anything in these cultures, when we're talking to people, it's like we kind of like tell each other like, all right, we need to document this stuff, and we all go, cool, got it. And yes, that helps like to a certain extent, but then most of the time it's like the people that are doing this shit is these like big famous influencers who are not part of the community, because if they were part of the community they would already do it. Do you want more?
I'm sorry, I'm not.
No, go. Lights are probably going to turn off again anyway. You can bring it, okay? That's all right.
I'm back.
That's all right. Yeah, so like I think it's hard because then it's like almost like reaching the people that are doing it wrong is easier said than done, isn't it? Like, because they're the ones that need like we need to document it for us, whatever the thing is, but then also we need to let those people know, even if you've got like 1 million followers and you're super famous, and it's like why, like they need to find a reason, or we need to give them a reason to care about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's the balance in it, because again, like you can't force people to care.
Yeah. But it's annoying when they're the ones doing the most damage.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, like, because I guess we could say like, well, it's with conversation, blah blah, but then sometimes these conversations, let's be real, like sometimes it's a waste of time. Like you're talking and we're talking and that's cool, and everyone goes home and then tomorrow you see the same shit. Like, or
it's like there's something about like almost like and this is going to sound negative, but like distancing the real art from the not real art.
Someone made that point, yeah.
Because it's like, no one looks at karaoke and goes, oh, it's ruining the art of singing. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, why is that?
That's a good example.
It's because like this, I think TikTok is like karaoke for dance. Mm-hmm. It's like just a chance for like people to, but it's not looked at like that. It's only like real dancers that feel like, TikTok is just like a shitty way to do like the least possible effort and look good and make your friends laugh and join in, which I think is great. Like this, I hate karaoke, but I think it's a great thing for people that want to have fun and sing. If you love that, cool. Same with TikTok. If you enjoy doing the little dance challenge and blah blah, fine, like have a great time. But the annoying thing is that the public looks at that like dance, and it's like we need to let them know it's like that's that, and we're the real shit. But and it's fine, but that's the fun thing. The same way karaoke is the fun thing. You know. Do
you think though that, because I don't know how comfortable I am with like the real shit and you. Do you know what I mean? Like even though that is a fact, it's true, but is it that though that we're doing the same, like we love the same thing, but our perspectives are different? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Like because because that's just another form of like separation, isn't it?
Yeah, but is there a way to do it in a way that's like not negative? In a way it's like, we still love and support you, but we just want to let external people know. It's always like the fucking media and corporations, isn't it? Because it's like, if they separated it, we'd be fine. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you didn't invite TikTokers on like, I don't know, like TV shows and say that these are like the best dancers. You know, it's like, I don't know.
What about if you, so if you look at it from a business perspective, right? So some people who do the real shit, and this is just me stepping out from Olu. Some people who do the real shit, they're not made for TV. They're not made for corporation stuff. They're not made 100. For people aren't going to engage. They can't engage an audience. Like they don't know how to talk to people. They are incredible dancers, but that's not your bag. It's not your steez. Whereas these influencers, they are. And I think there needs to be a middle ground. There needs to be a balance where, without forcefully saying to these influencers like, you need to know your shit, because they might not want to fucking go training 3 days a week and like ciphering and doing, they might not want to. So I think my question is it okay that these influencers know the bare minimum? Is that enough? Because they're doing the bare minimum, right? So is it enough that they know the bare minimum? So we look at an influencer who, you know, they often do challenges that blow up, they go viral, you know, they might get invited on shows, whatever the case may be. But it's not that they know absolutely fuck all.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I could ask that influencer, like, oh, so where are these, like, where is this style from? Yeah, it's from Ghana, from wherever. But if you dig a bit deeper, they might not know. So is it okay that that influencer knows that the steps that I'm doing, majority of them are from here or from here? Like, if you want to know more, like, you can like, I know that these steps are called this or called that. I know that this translates to, like, if they know the bare minimum, is that enough? And if it is enough, then maybe that's all we need. Like, do they need to go to training every week? Do they need to like know like the absolute history?
And I'm definitely on that wave of thinking, like, I always think this sort of thing, you know, because like, also audience wise, because people always talk about like, oh, people don't respect dance and blah 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 blah, but I'm like, why should they? Like, I go and watch Fast and the Furious, but to go and do that, I don't need to know all the intricacies of real street racing. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I had to delve into a real culture every time I just wanted to casually enjoy something, do you know what I mean? It's like, am I like a sneakerhead? Maybe more than the average person, but compared to people that are really into sneakers, no. But like, do I want to buy some nice shoes now and then? Yeah, cool. Like, people want to enjoy certain things casually, which I think, like you're saying, is like, that's totally fine. I think maybe it's more like, you know what I was thinking about is like, say with, I don't know, like, because art is like not necessarily like good or bad, it's hard to convince, because it's like, say like with basketball, right, the best players in the world are also the most famous players in the world. Like, it just is that way.
They correlate to each other.
And you can't be more famous than LeBron James if you're shit. Like, it's not possible. But you can be more famous than like, I don't know, one of our like best freestylers if you're just pretty and on TikTok. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy to outshine people who are better than you just because it's culturally agreed. And then I guess the question is like, what are they, like, what counts as better if more people prefer the other thing? Isn't it just, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one, and it's like, maybe not like, I definitely don't think we should force, like, we should allow a space for people to enjoy everything casually. Like, you shouldn't have to give a shit all the way to be able to just dip your toes in. Of course not. Because then also, that's how I started dance, was like by just fucking around with waves and trying to impress girls and stuff. And it's like, I ended up falling in love with it, and maybe 9 other people, and I was they didn't and I did. You know what I mean? But if I was told at the beginning, if you're even going to start learning that wave, you better learn about your history and your pioneer, I wouldn't have done it. I would have been like, oh, never mind. I just want to have fun. Like,
so maybe like, I don't know, like, so I'll use myself as an example. Like, I know what I know about like locking, popping, Vogue, whacking, because everyone I trained, that was just the thing. You had to know the bare minimum. You had to know the foundations.
Sure.
You had to know at least what it was fucking called. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine me like doing like Muscle Man and I had no fucking clue like what the style was even called? Like at the bare minimum. And back then, I don't remember like feeling forced to know it. Like the information was given to me as it was taught to me.
Yeah, like this is what it is.
And I remembered it. Like, and it was never said to me like, you have to remember it. It was just, why wouldn't I want to? And in that time when I was like, that was enough. Like it was enough to like, know the foundations, know the, a little bit of a background of it, like the steps that I'm giving you, like these are what it's called, these are the reasons why it's called that. And that was okay. And that helps me make a decision. Am I going to delve more into it or am I not? My decision was not necessarily but I appreciate the technique and the foundation and the movement quality that it adds to who I am now. But there's no way that I would comfortably like walk around and hit like a Fresno without knowing that it was. What, do you know what I mean? Like, I just couldn't. But I'm not gonna sit here and like give you like a whole back history.
Yeah, sure.
On like popping because I don't know it. But at the bare minimum, so is that okay? And if it is, then. But I think it's when people absolutely have no, like you're just doing it helter-skelter. You're not even, nothing is nothing. Like you just don't even have a clue.
But I think that's kind of the thing where it's like, if you get these people, which I think maybe was the thing with Afro, but like if you get someone that's like teaching the shit and there's like loads of people in the class or on Insta or whatever and they're like, this is Afro. And then your class where you're teaching real shit is like 3 people and nobody knows about it. You're going to be like, this is unfair in a way, not because of your personal, and this also comes into it that people get their personal feelings mixed up with the cultural thing. But like you're also going to be like, a lot of people are getting the wrong information and thinking it's the right information. So then it's like, how to rectify that in a place where
I think the people who teach the real shit in Afro, there's an unspoken thing that's going on at the moment. People want to know the real shit now. You do. You're either going to run out of moves, or you're gonna want more. Like, what are you gonna do? You're either watching. One, not necessarily my video, but you're either watching, or you come to the class, like, and for me, like, no matter how much you want to run away from it, like you're always gonna come home and you're always gonna want to know more. And hello, when you're ready, Tuesdays at 8:30 at the Hub.
Boom. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
It'd be weird if you said no, because that's what this whole thing is. It was weird that I asked you if I could ask you a question on a podcast. Do you think, right, so let's say with popping, I'm forming this thought as I'm saying it, so if it doesn't make any sense, that's why. Let's say with any of the hip hop styles, right, they came from like pretty much like Black Americans, Black or Latino Americans, right? So in England or anywhere else in the world, as these things spread, we have obviously Black people here, but we don't have a lot of people who are Black Americans we don't have a huge population of people, right? With Afro styles, we have a gigantic population of Black and Caribbean people who are, if not like first generation, second generation, like they're pretty in touch with their roots, right? So I'm wondering if, like, because you're saying about like there's it's pretty, people want to know their shit, right? Do you think it's like, because, how do I phrase this? Like, if I want to learn Afro, there's a high chance of me knowing someone who has roots in this place where that dance comes from. So it's like, if like I have multiple friends who are from a lot of these countries that you listed, right? So then it's like, maybe it's more of a thing of me having someone to like motivate me to care about it. Whereas like maybe the other styles, as soon as they cross country lines, they get removed if the people in that new country, like in Japan, they're learning breaking, right? But how many, besides the pioneers that go over there, how many like Black or Latino Americans are living in Japan for some Japanese dude to be like, I want to learn breaking, and then to be like to his friend, or they're all Japanese, or you know what I mean? Whereas here, I'm like, oh, I want to learn a dance from South Africa. Like I grew up with a guy from South Africa. So even if he's like, I have a good friend who lived in South Africa, was born in Swaziland. And it's like, even if he doesn't really know anything in the same way that you know about those styles, but that's his culture. So I will often talk to him about Afro dance, and as much as he can't go into the intricacies of the style, and he'll tell me like, oh yeah, that's the, or like, oh yeah, I know like if I say, I do know this place, or he's like, yeah, that's like no, we used to go there, or like, oh yeah, I've seen that dance before when I was a kid, or like, and it's like something I can identify. And I have, you know, like friends from like, you know, Dennis, do you know Dennis?
Yes.
He's from Ghana, and it's like a lot of the conversations, again, because I don't really have an interest in like learning Afro as a sorry, I'm coming Tuesdays at what time? 8:30. But like, no, but just as a dancer, I'm like, it's not something that, and we'll actually, I want to talk about that, we'll get onto that, but like, it's not something that I have an interest in, but because Dennis does it, and I know it's where his family are from, I've had so many conversations with him about him telling me about like a move, or like, oh, this is like from this type of thing, or culturally this is, or like when he went to Ghana, as a friend, I'm interested in his trip, and then therefore we get into the subject of the dances. So now, just even that, those two people, there's way more examples, even like you as a person, you know, as my friend, and it's like, I have more reason to care and more link to like, not only care, but also feel bad if I don't care, because I'm like, oh, I'm not only disrespecting this dance, I'm disrespecting Olu and Dennis and Pride, like their cultures, you know what I mean? Whereas like, it's maybe easier, like I said, like for a Japanese person to like in air quotes disrespect the pioneers of breaking, because they're so far removed from that type of people, or the culture where it came from. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. But I think
tell me if I'm talking shit.
No. You're absolutely right. And like, I guess if you ask like a lot of people how they got into Afro, like it's either like their friend did it who knew that person who's from there, or their friend visited Nigeria and loved it and came back and started learning, whatever the case may be. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. But like, I think people act like the information is like far. Like it's not far. Like no one's ever asked me where I got my information from. Do you know what I mean?
Where did you get your information from?
Like I speak to people. Like I mean, before I even started like delving into it a lot, like, or when I decided that like this was the style that I wanted to do, like I traveled, like I read a lot, like I just didn't want to be that person who, because I'm African, like I have this entitlement. Like I don't.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah, like I don't.
I feel like your name is quite Nigerian, isn't it?
It's very bait. Like the most.
I know quite a few Olus, and I think they're all Nigerian.
In life. Yeah, like I'm
is
not.
Is your second name Nigerian?
Alatise, it is, yeah. Okay. It is as well. Yeah, I didn't want to like pretend like I hadn't just been fucking training in hip hop for 10 years. Like, I'm not gonna lie to myself. So, like, I did what maybe someone who isn't even like culturally from any of these places would do. Like, I wanted to read up about it. Like, I learned a lot of my stuff from a dancer called E-Flex, who lives in Ghana. And also as a Nigerian learning a Ghanaian style, that's also like a thing, and that's within, like, and I'm African, so it's not just like, you know, European people or people who aren't African, it's also within as well. Like, although like I'm African, but like specifically like the Ghanaian culture and the Ghanaian like this not mine.
And it also,
so I still have to do my due diligence, like, to learn.
I think it speaks to like this like misconception of like people thinking of Africa as a country, because it's like, if I was in America and I'm like, all right, guys, I'm going to teach you this French national dance. And they're like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, yeah, I'm from London. It's like, did you ever live in France? Well, no, but I'm European. So I'll teach you a French. I'll teach you the Norwegian fucking traditional cultural dance. Do you know what I mean? It's like, people would be like, well, what? Like, or people in England will be like, why are you teaching? I'm like, well, I'm European, so I can figure it out. And it's like, you don't think of Europe as one country, and this thing that like European and American people thinking of Africa as one place and one culture. Yeah. It's like that, where I guess it can be the same thing where you're like, I'm Nigerian and what I'm doing is Ghanaian. That's two different cultures, even if they're African cultures, in the same way that
absolutely.
The Netherlands and England are both European. But
like, I don't know if like I could be doing like, I don't know, a step or a move, and as a woman I'm not even supposed to be doing. Do you know what I mean? Like you just don't, like, I'm not, there was no way that I was gonna like assume, and I'm just quite naturally an inquisitive person when it comes to dance anyway. Like I'm forever a student. Like I am obsessed with like, till this day, like as much as I know what I know in this style, like till this day, like I still read stuff. Like I'm still like, reading theses from people who wrote about traditional forms back in the University of Nigeria. Do you know what I mean? Like I love it. Like I just want to know.
And that's part
more.
of your thing. Like you're trying to be a teacher and you're trying to be an expert, like an educated expert. So
yeah, exactly. So I can't remember what the point was. I just went into a tangent there.
I like it though.
I like it. You was gonna ask me something.
I was gonna talk about me not being interested in it. Yeah. No, because like, I mean, I don't have necessarily an interest in doing the style, and this is like part of my whole thing with dance is authenticity, right? Like, I don't want to do something that doesn't feel like me just because it's trendy, right? And I think it's more respectful to not do it than it is to do it just for the fucking sake of it. Like,
agreed.
This is some fucking like,
oh my God.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you, sir. I feel like you should just put like a compilation together of every time, like.
Anyway, I feel like it's authenticity is the most respectful thing, right? Like as a friend, as a person, culturally, whatever. It's like, if you're real with me, if I say something that pisses you off and you're real with me, that's the most amount of respect. And for me, we're gonna bond even more through that, right? Same with like anything culturally, like. I'm not from New York, so I don't walk around in a fucking Kangol hat and a tracksuit. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I get that certain things come with the culture, and I dress in a way that is definitely influenced by Black culture, but also like skateboarding and other stuff that I don't do. But I think trying to be as authentic as possible is the best way to be respectful. Absolutely. And because I don't feel like it's a dance style that I would enjoy, not that I wouldn't enjoy doing it, but like there's no part of me that it represents, or that it represents better than I can in other styles, right? Or through other mediums, like it's a certain feeling, and I'm like, like I like watching it. I think it's great, like it looks super fun, and it makes me happy to watch people do it and be good at it. But I've just never had the urge to do it. But I think I don't know what my actual question is, but like, I feel like sometimes I see people doing it or joining in and stuff, and I'm like, a bit of me is like, what are you doing? Like, but just like, I don't know why. And maybe it's me, like, I don't know, like. Is
it like a specific caliber of people, or just in general, people, you might look at
like
someone.
White English people. Like, I don't know. I just like, I just wonder. Okay, put it this way. Do you think, because this is kind of what I think, but also the me not wanting to do it has like made me not have to address this within myself. But I wonder if there's something to do with like, oh wait, let me formulate this before I say it. Like, it would feel weird for me to like be the face of like Afro or teach Afro or something, right? And I don't know if it's me as like, I always go to describe myself as a white guy and then realize I'm half Indian and I shouldn't.
I was gonna say
keep doing that. It's a really, I'm really trying to get out of it. It's a really bad habit, because I did it for ages. I just used to say, well, I'm a white guy, so and it's like, I've experienced racism. Like, my granddad moved over here from India. Like it's a whole identification crisis in my head that I'm learning to deal with. Anyway. my point being is like, it would feel weird for me to go into the style, learn it, be all like, I don't know, either a teacher or whatever. And just like, I feel like, I don't know, like, try and help me explain this, but like, I feel a bit like, just leave it alone and let like African culture like is being given its respect and
let the people who are in it or who are
flourish,
be the face of it instead of, okay, I get what you mean.
Like, and I don't know if that's like it's like a white guilt kind of thing, but like, I just have this feeling of like, just let them do their thing and let it.
You're not the first person to mention that. I mean, I have a white friend who like, she's touring at the moment, like
teaching
the style the style that she does. She does a style called Coupe de Calais from Ivory Coast, and she knows her shit.
Yeah,
she knows her shit, and I wouldn't call her someone who like takes a piss or like. She's very humble. She doesn't shout from the rooftop, but she's very popular. Dance. She's originally from Slovakia. She's moved here, and she's been teaching like internationally for a while, but she's actually doing a tour like literally everywhere, and it's amazing. And some people like will look at that and be like, I know 100 Coupe de Calais teachers. Why do you have to teach it? And I think it's
a tough one.
It's a really tough one
because you also can't ignore the fact that if you're European touring in Europe or with white people, it's like the Eminem rapper kind of thing. Like, he's always going to sell more than a black guy who is equally as talented because of the people he's selling it to.
Yeah,
so you can't ignore that. It's such
a tricky one because then naturally, like when a dancer trains 5, 10, 15 years, in a lot of cases, their next plan of action is, I would love to teach. I would love to share my knowledge.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's almost like, so do they cut their ambitions and goals, or like, do they just, as long as they're spreading the right information, like, do they carry, like, it's such a difficult one because, like, someone has also made a good point of, but there are people who, they are from there and they are just as, if not more, if anything, like, she may have even learned from some of these people, like, why can't they have just as much success as someone who is from the country, does the style, very knowledgeable, and it's just, I've never really known how to answer that question, if I'm being completely honest.
That's fine,
if we're talking about someone who is just very mediocre and like just a basic, then I would 100% would just side.
But that's more like, you shouldn't be teaching this.
Yeah, whereas with someone like that, the example that I gave, it's difficult because she travels back there. Like,
respects the style,
she respects it. She's open. I can't attest anyone else's experience of her, but my experience of her, she's open to criticism. Like, I think there was and I'm sure she won't mind me speaking about this, but she used to do her hair in braids quite a bit, and I think that was like a conversation that people sort of were having with her, and were like, well, this is why, like, it just might not, and you're someone who does an African dance that it just doesn't,
it just rubs it in even more.
And she took it on board.
There's a lot of conversation about b-boys who wear do-rags if they're white. Similar thing, I think.
Yeah, and she took it on board, and she's not someone who is like a pompous white woman.
Sure.
Who like
entitled. Yeah,
like entitled. That's not my experience of her at all. So for someone like that, it's difficult for me to answer that question because it's like, like should she not teach? But I can't lie and say that, like, sometimes I can't help but think, how weird, like, how come this person hasn't like had that level of success? But yeah, it's such a difficult one.
I'm not expecting you to have like a concrete answer.
It's a conversation that happens like quite, because she's not there. There are like several.
You know what? To be completely real with you, like the main thing that I think of when I think of this conversation is like Eastern European people doing dancehall.
I was thinking, I wonder if he because that happens a lot in dancehall as well.
Yeah, and like this is where I first kind of recognized it myself. And it just came up in my head of something like, and it's not, I don't actually have a lot of Jamaican friends. Like, weirdly enough, like all the friends I grew up with were African.
It's calling you, Luke.
Yeah, they were all basketball players, and that didn't work out so well for me. Oh. But no, but like for real, like it was like maybe like, and I guess it's, you know, not like the communities are not separate, but do you know what I mean? Like if they're friends, like it might be because they grew up in an African community. So if I'm friends with one person, it's likely that their friends are going to be African. But yeah, and not even like all the like maybe like 8 or 10 like group of friends I had growing up were all from Africa. But yeah, I've never really had like a lot of Jamaican, even now, like close Jamaican friends to talk to about this type of thing. But I think it's the same thing that I have a question about in Afro. But like, yeah, I just look at it and I'm like, like from the complete outside, because I've done zero, you know, for anyone listening or watching, I'm admitting I've done zero research or had zero conversations about this. So if I'm talking shit, I'm talking shit. Fair enough. If I'm being offensive, I'll apologize. But I look at it and I'm like, there's a lot of dancehall teachers who are like Eastern European or Italian for some reason, and
Russian.
Yeah, and Russian. And I'm like, I have a lot of questions about this because first of all, I'm like, why do I tend, like 95% of the time when I see a dancehall class or workshop or something, admittedly being outside of the community, it's always a white person. Secondly, my other question is, these to me seem like some of the more racist countries in Europe. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I get like, you know, London, Paris, I don't know where else, but like these are like the multicultural cities of Europe. I'm sure, you know, of course there's racism that happens in London, but London, you know, is pretty multicultural. There's a lot of communities of Caribbean, African people here. So, okay, like a white person from London teaching, I'm like, okay, maybe there was contact. But if you're from like, I don't know, like Russia, like I went to Russia, there's not a lot of black people that I saw.
Yeah, I've heard.
Like I was in Moscow and it's like, that's the like a big city. And it's like, you'd think that's like the more multicultural place that where people would go to settle. And I'm like, this seems, and you know, even with, I don't know, like the how bad they are with the like kind of LGBTQ stuff there, and then I don't know, like them having like a Vogue scene or something. I'm like, I have questions. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but then I guess also, you know, like of course there are people who are in that community who live in Russia, but like with, I'm like, where, let's say with like teaching Afro or teaching dancehall, and you're from those countries, I'm like, it's not even like I think something. I'm just like, I have so many questions.
I mean, those teachers, there's a high chance that I can't speak too much about the dancehall community, but the ones that I've come into contact with, like, they tend to like travel like, quite a lot. So in terms of contact and interaction, like, it's highly likely that they've had quite, and a lot of them have been like to Jamaica. And a lot of them go back like, quite often. I think for me, it's the same. Like, I don't know, but I think when it starts to what's the word? Outnumber.
Yeah, this is
when it starts to outnumber. I think that's when it gets a little bit scary, and it just then becomes like, so is this now the face? And so we're like, what are they, the behind the scenes people? They teach all the knowledge, they don't get any of the recognition, and this now becomes like the standard of what a dancehall teacher is or Afro teacher is. And in a way, because some of these like I've met like two teachers who are dancehall who are European. They're not Jamaican, they're not Caribbean, and similar to the girl that I mentioned before in Afro, like they know their stuff, like they're respectful, but it is I know what you mean, and I know why you're asking that. Like, because a small example is you look at a flyer for a dancehall convention. Doesn't happen too much in Afro, but I know in dancehall, like, it is quite apparent. unless it's a specific organizer. But like you look at a flyer and like, it's like, where's Wally?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? It's like,
and you know, the thing for me as well is like, right, so this is another thing in my head where I make the distinction, I guess, and this is also talking about me not doing Afro and stuff, and well, that's where it came from. It's like, I know that there's a lot of my cultural upbringing which is from Black culture. A lot of it is from American Black culture. Some of it is from British Black culture. And the part which is American Black culture, I didn't grow up with whatsoever, right? I think part of the distinction that I make is that I grew up in some of this culture. Like when we talk about like grime culture in the UK, like it's not like something I learned about. Like and we're the same age, right?
Yeah.
Like similar.
In it.
Like we grew up in that shit. Like
at 100%.
like, yeah, like people make fun of me because I'm from the outskirts of London, but like I grew up like London area. Do you know what I mean? So when like the first like fucking tracks of grime came out on like, and it was like, I don't know if it was pre-Channel U or whatever, or like the pirate radio stations, it's like, admittedly, yes, I'm not like in the ends, but I'm listening to that shit on like pirate radio. I'm watching it on TV. I'm like, there was like people doing grime sets in Watford, and we would go and like go to the radio station where like Anthony Joshua used to be one of them.
Is
like,
it?
Yeah, he was like grew up with our group of friends. He was like one of the older lot in Watford, but we used to like, him and his like group of friends used to go to the radio and like do sets. Because they used to all MC, and we would like tag along because we were the little kids, and we used to go and listen and stuff, and like end up at some random dude's house and just like listening to people. But it's like, this is what I'm saying, where it's like there's a part of it which is a distinction where I'm like, no, this isn't my culture, but in a way it is my culture. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm like, I was born and grew up in London grime culture. So when we talk about hip hop and stuff, yes, there's an element of it that isn't my culture, but there's also an element of it which is the London stuff which has been added into the culture. So now when we talk about hip hop and you look at like Stormzy or Chip or any of these people, it's like we have our own identity as UK culture, which is not which is like its own thing. It's not like a little offshoot. It's like it's its own thing, and it's actually influencing American hip hop culture now. So it's like I have something that I can hold on to and be like, no, I'm part of this culture, and the same like circumstances that made like Stormzy and Chip be into what they're into made me be into what I'm into, which happens to be the dance side of it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a bit more where I feel a bit more like at home when we talk about hip hop, right? With dancehall and Afro, and please correct me if I'm wrong in the Afro side of it, I don't think there's like a part of it which is yet to be British Afro dance, because from the sounds of it, and again I could be talking shit, from the sounds of it you're still saying that the dances that are being brought over here are we're trying to preserve them as African cultural dances that have been brought, and we're teaching them as if they're done in Africa. But is there anything that you're teaching which is like, oh no, this comes from England, in the same way that grime is like came from hip hop, but it's something that was born and grew in England?
I don't think it's called anything yet, but I definitely think there is a huge distinction how UK Afro dancers do the style. Okay. That even people like in America like often try to like emulate, and it's you know, it's great. So sick. If you look at like Homebros, for instance, like, and if you look at Homebros, and if you look at these two dancers from Ghana, Dance God Lloyd and Afro Beast, so they could be doing the exact same thing, but you like, there's just, because it's not called anything yet, but there's 100% like a distinction between how we do it, especially those of us who have trained in other styles, or those of us who grew up like in the hood. Like you can just see, with me, you can definitely see like there, I know like the way I take on Afro and the way that I choreograph it is, well, it's intentional, but it is very distinct, and like you will look at my choreography and you can see me. I'm from London. I'm an African girl and I'm Nigerian, and I spent like a quarter of my life there, but I'm not gonna lie and be like
Sure.
I that I walk the streets of Lagos like every night, because I don't
because also outside of the dance there is Black British culture, so like it's inevitable that these things will eventually
I think it's just because it's not called anything, but I think there's a thing that if you look at a dancer from an Afro dancer from the UK,
you can tell.
You can just see it. So I definitely think like we have.
So do you think then that in that way, if somebody like, let's say that thing develops and becomes its own thing in the same way grime and rap are kind of different, then maybe someone who's from London or from, from England, who's maybe white, or like if the same thing happened with like Russian Afro, like then them teaching that might be a different story.
But that's the thing, I don't teach that. I don't like, so I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for anyone else. So I'm always going to teach the foundation. I'm not teaching you how I do. Like, I'm going to teach you the foundation as it is in its entirety. My choreography is going to reflect my perspective on those foundations. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's more of a style than a different.
So it's almost like if I teach you 3 horizontal steps, I'm going to show you how I apply those steps in the choreography, right? And the way I do it, like I'm gonna layer it with my true life experience, which is I'm like this. I grew up in Peckham, I grew up around a lot of guys. Like I trained in hip hop. Like I'm like you're gonna see, and even when like I think Homebros does it quite a bit as well.
Compilation.
Oh, I can't wait for this edit. It's gonna be so cool.
Never using this room again. Do you reckon it's emotion?
It must be. There's no way it could just be.
That's good. This is all fun. Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, Homebros does this thing in their class where they give you the step. I do it sometimes as well. They give you the step, and then I think every star probably does. I think Sean does it in popping as well. And it's just finding different ways of just doing the same, like the same step. Like for me, it's the same thing. So I don't teach like. As a foundation, I don't teach my perspective because I don't think I'm trying to teach you to find your own perspective. Does that kind of make sense? And I do that by, I'm going to teach you the foundation and the culture and the history and what I know in its entirety, not my version of it. I'm going to teach you the foundation. Choreography and stuff, I'm teaching you how I apply the foundation in choreography.
Yeah.
But the foundation itself, like, why would I teach my version of it?
Like, in reference to the conversation about like white European people teaching the styles and kind of being the face of it, like, I think my point is like if let's say like a guy from London, like in like 1990 or whatever, is like, I don't know, wearing a Kangol hat and like rapping in an American accent and blah blah blah, you'd kind of be like, what? What you did. But then now with grime being, it's like developed so much over the last 20 years or whatever that it's its own thing. When you have someone like Devlin or some of these like white rappers you exactly, you kind of look at them more as like, Devlin was a bit of a dated example, age is better. You look at them and you say, I more believe that you grew up in the culture than someone who is like, you're from here and you know that that's a very American thing. And this is kind of my question about like dance hall, where it's like, and maybe with Afro, where it's like, there isn't maybe the like, like you said, it's just a style version. So it's like, you're still teaching us a dance from Africa. Whereas like if it had developed so much like grime, where it was literally its own thing, and it was like completely different in England than it was in Africa, you could be like, oh, but I'm teaching the shit that grew in England and I'm English, that's why I know about it. Does that make sense?
I get you. I get you.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's like,
it's such a it's so difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know like specifically how like the dance hall community even feels.
Yeah, this is my question. Is like, are we all?
Yeah,
cool with
but
this?
I know in Afro, like with the people who know their stuff, so like with white teachers who like they teach African dance, but they know their shit.
Yeah.
I think those ones are a lot more difficult because are we judging the skin color or are we judging
100%.
the skill
Yeah.
of the person? I think that's where the conflict is. Whereas it's easier when it's someone who you can smell an appropriate.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you can
yeah,
smell
yeah.
it and you can just tell, and you know those people get dealt with how they get dealt with.
Yeah.
But I think it's always more difficult
When
and
they're actually good.
I presume it's the same with dancehall. Like it is more difficult when it's. I just think the outnumbering thing can be very uncomfortable. Though.
Yeah.
It can be really uncomfortable. But who do we blame? Do you blame the teacher who's getting asked? Should they say no? Or is it the organizers? Like, should they know more like teachers who are from the,
And even if you start with the best of intentions, and this is kind of where I feel like it involves what we were talking about, me not wanting to do Afro. It's like even the whole not lineage, like the whole progression of what happens when you start a style. That's where I'm like, I just want to stay away from the whole thing for now.
basically you're saying, what if I get sick at it?
Yeah, kind of. But you know, it's like in my head, I'm like, I don't, I want to plan ahead, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start popping. I know what it takes to get good at popping, to develop a name, what I would do if I got a name, how to compete, how to do well. Then if I get good enough to start judging, I know how to like market that and then do workshops. And I would 100% do all that shit in popping. But with like Afro, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to a few classes. Cool. Like I might, if it was like, I'm just going to go to a couple of classes for fun just to do it. Like I probably would do that. But to get into the style and do it, I'm like, okay, so what's the progression for me? I go in, I do it, I get really good. Like, and also my brain and the connections that I have in the like industry, even with you, I'm like, I would go to a few classes, I would kind of get a feel for it. Then I'd be like, Olu, can you help me with that shit? Can we train? Can we do? All right, now I'm getting good at it. Now I'm like at your class every week. Then what's next? You ask me to cover. Do I feel comfortable to do that? Or maybe you don't. And then I'm getting good. And then someone else says, I need you to teach a class because Olu's not here, and you know stuff. And then I'm like, too many questions. I just don't want to get into it.
But then I really think it like it's judged on an individual basis. I definitely don't think that should be anyone's reason to not delve into the style.
And yeah, sorry, just to say as a disclaimer, this is not me saying I have a valid reason to think these things. I'm just being completely real with you about like the questions in my head, and hopefully the whole point of the pod is to have real conversations and just to say like, you know, maybe there's other people that feel how I feel, but it's just like this is just something that's kept me away from the style.
I don't think it should be anything, and I think this is again, I already speak for myself. I think that is one of my fears, that people shy away because, you know, the natural progression might be, okay, I don't even want to get into it. I'm just going to stay away. Or like, because, you know, I don't even know how people feel about being a white person and walking into a class. Obviously, some people, because they've either grown up around people like that, like they're just used to it. They just, I want to do Afro, I'm going to do it. Whereas some people, it might take a lot more thought process and
even how to like embody the character of it, because embodying the character of a popper is kind of disassociated from being a black person in LA now. So I have more examples of how I can portray that character. With Afro, I don't feel like I do, or dancehall, I don't feel like I have a lot of examples. And again, I haven't looked into it much, but I'm like, if I'm like going to get into character, do I have to pretend I'm African? Do you know what I mean? Or like feel, I don't know what to feel or how to act, or what's the character.
I'll only speak on the style that I do, but I feel like it applies to most African styles. So like Azonto, the style that I do, like it's based off of like daily activities.
Okay.
It's used for entertainment. It's very animated. I'm not Ghanaian. And a lot of us who do this style and teach it aren't like, we don't live there. Right. So if we're saying this style is from the streets, okay, so if I need to embody it, I'm not out here on the streets of Ghana, so the only thing that I can do, right, is use. This is why we do foundation, yes, building blocks, right. I can only layer it with my real life experience. My streets is not Ghana. My streets is going to Madam Jojo's. Do you know what I mean? My streets is like rehearsing outside of South Bank, like. And using the mirrors as reflections, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's my reality, and that's the only parallel that I can create. We have to do it as well.
That's interesting to know.
Do you know what I mean? And I definitely verbally say this in my class. Like, if you are trying to put a character like on the moves or on the steps, I'm not asking you to emulate what you think a Ghanaian dancer looks like.
Yeah.
Like, what you're doing is using the foundation and the building, the block that you've set underneath yourself, and you're layering it with yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's so sick to hear you say.
Yeah, I don't believe. I actually think it would be more disrespectful.
Yeah, it's back to the authenticity.
Yeah, it would be more disrespectful to do that. And for me, like, that is what I have learned, and that, because I was a bit concerned about that as well.
Oh, really?
I was. But it's like I don't. It's my job to understand it and to know and to watch, like, you know, these incredible dancers from Ghana and see like how their body moves and, you know, how these steps are even created, and just watching it happen in real time. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's my job to know, and I have that as inspiration, but that's all it's there for.
That's it.
Inspiration, nothing to do with that the style teaches me to apply my life experience, my daily. That's how the moves are created, right? Daily activities. I know the foundation of the step. What are my daily activities? What is my life experience? What is that? And I think that's what authenticity is. We are all saying the same thing, but our dialects are different.
It's funny because like it's so interesting to hear you say that, because it's like I say similar stuff if I teach hip hop, like to not like even with the bounce and stuff. I'm like, all right, let's just start with literally like you said, the foundation, like bend your knees and like engage your body.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, now when we start to add our own style to this bounce, you don't have to go over the top and like act like you're an American rapper in a like 80s video or something. But it's like, or like, you know, even worse, the like caricature of it that we say, you know, like with the big gold chains, and like you don't have to have that in your mind because it's the caricature that you might expect that you need to play. But it's like, okay, what feels natural for your body and your experience? So it's kind of like, now that you're saying this, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of how I would.
And I think as a teacher, for me, I'm not trying to teach people blindly. Like, I really care about this shit, and I really want people to walk away and remember things that I've said. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want people just walking in, they walk out and they forget everything. Like, I want it to feel real to them. How do things stay in our bodies? Like, we've done, how did you get good at it? Do you know what I mean? It wasn't you emulating anyone else.
It's like making it authentic, and then it's just part of...
Like, the only way like this style has stuck in my body and it feels real to me is because it is me. Like, by way of the foundation. I just...
That's really interesting.
That's how somebody else can come on here and say a completely different thing. And again, like, I take my inspiration from like the people who do this shit for real, back home, and that is their life. But that is all that is, inspiration. That's it. I make it my job to know. I watch it, I observe, I see, okay, cool. But of course it's going to look like that. Of course it's going to feel like that, because that's their environment. That's where, that isn't my environment. It isn't. And I would feel really strange trying to, I mean, some things would naturally be like maybe the same, because there are certain things that like intersect with Africans anyway, like with just in general different countries, maybe like, I don't know, people say like African mums or African moms are the same, just little tiny things like that. So if I'm doing a dance and like, I'm like, okay guys, like we need to be like an African mum. I'm not an African mum, I'm not a mum. But there are those kind of little like nuances, like maybe, but just in general,
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's like, it's definitely like, and again, I'm not trying to say any of this from a place of thinking I know what I'm talking about. Like, I'm 100% admitting ignorance on this, but it's good to talk about it and know that sort of stuff, because it's genuinely been a reason why I've been like, like part of it is the thing what we were saying before about, you know, like just the progression, or like, kind of like just like like you don't need to be involved in everything, just let it be what it is. I
think
for
it's
now.
people understanding like their whys as well. Not everyone who walks into my class, or even people who train with me in my dance group, not everyone's intention is to be a teacher. Not everyone's intention is even to like to work or make money from it. Some people just believe that I have been given this gift and it is my job before I leave this earth to explore it to the fullest capability. That is all I need to do.
Yeah, that definitely speaks to me, because I am the opposite of that. Like, I can't start anything without it becoming a thing. Yeah, so that's what, maybe that's more about me personally, where I'm like, because I know I struggle to have hobby. Like, the only hobbies I have is dumb shit like Netflix and stuff, because anything that has a progression I have to do. Like, this started as a fucking hobby, and now I'm like, if I enjoy something, like I can't not try to progress at it. So
it could be like, I know some people who have done Afro, not to become an Afro dancer, but just to see how it aids their movement quality. So that, like, you could be a popper through and through, and that can never change. But what if Afro aids it may not, and if it doesn't, that's cool. But it could just be for that, or you could find yourself in a position where you absolutely fucking love it and you're covering classes.
Imagine Luke fucking Azonto class.
Oh god.
But it's just super interesting to talk about that. And like, I mean, you know, even if this wasn't recorded, I'd still
I know loads of people like have questions like that though, like and
I'm asking them for you guys.
Where I can, like, so like obviously the uni that I teach at, like, it's a very it's a large percentage. I'll probably say like 80% of the students are white girls,
right?
And I know it's like the elephant in the room. And I don't think it needs to be like an elephant in the room. Like, it's okay to, you know, there's always that fear of like, am I allowed to enjoy it?
Yeah.
Because no, you absolutely can enjoy it and go home.
Yeah.
And go to bed, and that will be the end of it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there doesn't need to be this big deal made of it. But of course, when you start to want to take it further, then that's where, like, have conversation, ask questions like, can I or can I not? Or what does it look like for a white female to want to teach this stuff? I don't know why people are
afraid to ask.
Like, I asked when I wanted to start teaching. I asked like my mentor at the time, like is that the right thing to do? You know, why is it like it's
I think it's also like, for me, anything to do with race or culture is about, like, it ultimately is about exposure. Like, the more, I think the least racist people are the people that grew up in multicultural places, and the most racist people tend to be the ones that have never fucking met anyone that's not their race. So it's like, I think it's just like, the more exposure you have, the less you worry about these things. Like I said, like, me talking to you now about this, like, there's a part of me that's like, I know it's recorded and I don't want people to take what I'm asking or saying out of context, but in the sense of me asking questions to someone who's especially African, I'm like, I'm not worried at all, because I've grown up with, like I said, like legit 4 of my best friends in this whole planet, like, growing up, were all African. So I've like said ignorant shit. I've got the ignorant questions out of the way. I've had insightful conversations. I've had fun conversations. Like, I know, not like, oh, I'm an expert on fucking African culture, but I'm not worried about talking to you about it. I think people that don't have any contact or have grown up in like really, and especially I'm imagining uni students who have grown up in like the Midlands and moved to London or whatever, they're like, well, I don't want to be offensive, so let me not ask anything about black people stuff. You know what I mean? And then when they're in an Afro class, it's like, I can just imagine them sweating.
So I that was probably one of the first conversations that I had in the room, and I was like, you are about to and I actually started with the traditional form before I even moved into the newer stuff, and we had the conversation, and like you could just feel that they were like
just they were like weight off their shoulders.
Oh my god, thank God.
I bet,
because I think it's important, because
and it comes from a good place. They're trying to be respectful, but they don't know how to. So it's like, do I even bring this up? Is it something we shouldn't ask about?
Because the chances of them asking like an offensive question, like mean without even thinking or realizing, like if I don't say anything in the beginning, like it will probably happen. But like, for me, that's just how I run anyway. If I see that, like, I'm gonna read the room. Like if like 9 out of the 10 people in there are like, why, of course it's gonna
you're
be
probably wondering if it's fine for you to have fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you can ask questions, you can ask, like, if you're not sure, ask. Absolutely. And I think like people need to be like more open,
for sure,
like open about it. Of course, when it goes deeper, like, oh, I want to teach, or I want to do this, that's a different conversation. But you should get someone who's in the dancehall community, because those questions are like super interesting. And I'd like
I didn't mean to ask you about dancehall as if that.
No, it's fine, because it is. I know there's sometimes
there's parallels. I think.
Yeah, exactly. But you should definitely get someone to, because I would actually like to hear.
Yeah. I'll try and do that. Because I think it's like those two, like dancehall and Afro, I feel like are the two styles that are. Let me think about this before I say it. Maybe they're the two most pure styles in the sense of the place of origin. Like house is like, there's influences from all over the world. Hip hop, there's influences from all over, even though we know where they're from. I'm trying to think, maybe crump, I don't know, but that's more of like a people that create it rather than an area. It's not so, I don't think crump is so linked to like one area. Maybe I'm talking absolute shit. But like, even like, let's say Light Feet with New York maybe, but like the kind of older styles, like hip hop, locking, popping, house, breaking, are like, there's a lot of influences from all over the world. Whereas I feel like dancehall and Afro are like from, even Afro, like
they're attached to
like the countries,
cultural groups. They're attached
more than anything else. So that's why I see them as like good parallels, because it's like, and especially like dances, I mean, they're all dances of black origin, but like, let's say like from the places that they're from coming to Europe is a bit different, because when American dances came to Europe, they'd already been exposed to white Americans, whereas these are coming straight from Jamaica or different countries in Africa to Europe. And now they're getting exposed to European. I don't know. I just feel like there's some parallels.
I know what you mean.
And culture, like the idea of them being more cultural dances. I don't know.
I think I'm trying to
say it.
I'm trying to. I don't know. It's just the observations. Because where there's even privilege within us as Black Americans or Black British, there's even privilege within that. Not saying that there's a comparison at all, but even with us living in the UK, for instance, there's even privilege within that. And sometimes even I sometimes think to myself, when you deep it, so I actually had a conversation with one of the teachers back in Ghana today before I came here. And I was saying to him, like, the last couple of weeks, maybe it's because I've been teaching a lot more, it's just been on my heart heavy that like, I make money from teaching Azonto, right? Should I be giving? Do you know what I mean? Like, should I be giving? So, like, we all say giving back. Like, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like financially, but I don't know. That's just something that started to like cross my mind a lot more recently.
Yeah.
And although like you know, where eventually like there's going to be people after me who continue teaching it on, and that's just how dance travels. Like I get it, but I think because I live in the UK, it's just something that's been on my mind, and I've just been like, should I not? And then it's like, well, I don't really want to patronize. Like they're not, you know, like I don't want to assume that like they're like suffering, you know, like the stupid adverts that you see on TV. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I don't want
to like buy into the cult, like some of the not mythology. What do you call that? Like the
like the preconceptions
that like, oh, everyone in Africa is poor,
absolutely
so
not.
I should feel bad for them.
Some of them are probably living better than me. Like, 100%. On Instagram, and I'm like, oh boy, you are living good.
You're like, guys, I want to give back, and they're like, fuck off.
Meanwhile,
we want to give back to you, because they're like, oh, you grew up in Peckham,
right? Like, oh, you get through it, babe. I'm so sorry about that.
They're giving back to you.
But it's just something that I was like speaking to him about.
But you know
today,
what is interesting as well is like, I think it also is like, it begs the question of like, where does culture, like where are the boundaries of culture? Because like, okay, you're let's say you're doing, like you said, a Ghanaian dance mostly, and you're Nigerian, right? But you are African, so you are from.
That's what he said to me today. He was like, I know people often, it is true, like obviously culturally, like there are some things where like that is specifically a Nigerian cultural thing to do. That is true. But he was like, you, at the end of the day, you are African. So he was like, there is like a fine line with completely separate, but he was like, at the end of the day, like, we are Africans. So
and it's like, where's the point? Because it reminds me of my whole thing that I was speaking about at the beginning, like about me being Indian, and I've spoken about this before on the podcast, so sorry if people are getting bored of it, but like I spent a lot of time of my life, like up until maybe like 5 years ago, just being like, yeah, I'm white, knowing that like my grandparents are Indian, knowing that like they got, like when they first came over here in maybe the 60s or 50s, like really bad racism, and that they lived in India and spent their whole adult life. My mum was born in India. Like, it's not like it's just like a far off thing. It's like a real like cultural thing. All my mum's side of the family are all Indian. All their friends are Indian. We had like curries at every wedding, and it was like, it's not like nothing, right? But it's just because of the way, I guess, at most of my adult life, people looked at me was as white, because I don't really look Indian. I was
gonna say, is it because you're white passing?
Yeah, 100%. And it's like the way the conversations would be had, or people would group me in, is like, I just got used to calling myself white to the extent that I was ticking the fucking white British form. And it's like, even though it's such a dumb little thing, or it seems like it, but like I've been making sure to put, no, I'm a British Asian. Like I'm like the last 5 years, I'm like, no, it's just like a little, almost like a little moment of pride of like, no, I am fucking. And then it's like, what, you know, all the coronavirus report. I'm like, it says what country? I'm British Indian. Like, fuck yeah, absolutely. I am, you know? And it's like, and I almost like, because even my mum, you know, well, first of all, my whole Indian family are Catholic, or were Catholic. So they weren't Hindu or anything like that, right? And they didn't really speak Gujarati or anything like that, or Hindi. My grandparents like understood it, but they grew up a lot of time speaking English. And my mum didn't, you know, my mum was like quite young when she moved here, right? So because of all this, I felt like, I'm not really connected to it. Like, I'm more connected to my American side and through my dad than I am my Indian side, right? So I would like pretty strongly identify as American, but then if I was like, "Are you Indian?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I'm kind of white." Like, but it's like, who are people to say that I'm not Indian, and why am I not allowed to identify with my Indian culture?
I think there's still that disparity in this conversation with like people who are passing, like people who are like white passing. Like, it's because I saw it ironically, this big conversation on TikTok. And it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. And there's still a lot of like ignorance like around it. Like, I don't know that people exactly know how DNA works. and jeans, but it's so interesting. And even though it's funny because like a lot of people are doing like, you know, skits and satire comedy about it, but it's actually low-key not funny.
Yeah. It's so annoying when people take something problematic and actually make it funny. Because you're like, I don't want to laugh, but this shit's funny.
It's actually low-key not funny. And it's like, there's this guy on there and he's very much white passing, but he's got like super curly hair, but he's
African.
Black.
Oh,
yeah,
right,
his
yeah,
dad
black.
is black and his mum was white. But he's like, he looks white. And and he grew up in, I think he's from the South Carolina or Tennessee, or one of those South in America. And he's got like a very strong Southern accent. And I think someone made a comment and was like, why are you speaking like an old black lady?
Okay.
Like you're a white man, like you're not supposed to be there. And he was like, well, actually,
this is my accent.
it's my accent. It's where I grew up. And I think he actually grew up with his black side of the family. And people were like calling him a liar, like he wasn't mixed race and and like he had to like prove like that and it was so sad. And I just thought, wow, like you've actually gone out of your way to prove to these people like what it is. So like I get what you're saying. It's like because you're passing, it's like people can say to you, yeah, well, there's no way that you can be Indian.
But I think it also reminds me...
How do you know, Joe?
Yeah, it also kind of reminds me of what you're saying, where it's like, okay, maybe you, in the skin color aspect, you might not be part, like you might look like you're African, but then you feel like, I guess what you were saying about feeling like you want to give back and stuff is like, because you feel separated, maybe you're like, oh, maybe I should feel away. But it's like in the same way that, you know, like I can own my Indianness. It's like, but you are, that is your culture. You know what I mean? So it's like,
but I think that's why conversation and questions is good. It's like when people, because I thought, like I need to ask because like, should I not? Like, although like, like I know what I know and I would like to think that I'm very knowledgeable like in what I do and what I'm teaching, but like, I'm not going to pretend like I flipping know everything in life. So I had to ask and I was just like, I mean, I want to anyway, regardless, like, you know, I'll get, it doesn't have to be financially, like I want to anyway, because I'm in love with that cult. Like it is that for me, like it is part of me. But it's the same with like giving back doesn't have to be because people are less fortunate. No, do you know what I mean? Exactly. Like it's just like. But that was another thing as well. That I was like, oh, should I ask? Because then I don't want it to seem like, you know, I think that they're like suffering because they're absolutely not. 100%. But it's like I still want to give back to like the younger hip hop dancers and some of them are like well off people from the Midlands who have money. You know what I mean? I'm like, but still, you're young kids coming into an industry that is a bit unforgiving. So let me teach you for free, or you know, give you advice. Like exactly, it's just about giving back to a culture, I guess, that gave you something. I think that's where my mind frame was. But I've got a challenge for you. Me? Oh, God. I think for your 50th birthday, no. for your 50th, I think you should speak about your experience on an Afro class that you took. Ooh, all right. I've already got what are we? 48. I've got 49 and 50 planned, but I could do on the capsule, or I could come and do your class and we could do another pod, talk about it. Ooh. No, I think you should try 3. Ooh, okay. I think you should do mine. Oh my God, this is scary. I think you should do mine. So guys, you proper waited to do this on the pod, innit? You didn't want to say it after. So I think you should do mine. I think you should do Home Bros. For sure. And then I think you should do, who do I think you like? I think you should do SCJ. Okay. Why those 3? So I think you'll identify with mine the most. Okay. I think probably Home Bros as well. I think Home Bros would be like a nice challenge, and because they're men, I think there'll be it's a different side of me too. So even though we do like, you know, similar styles, but I think it's a different take. Yeah, sure. It's like any choreography when it's like more. And then I think Essie's class will be challenging. So she does Benga and Amapiano, which is, they're both from South Africa. Very like footwork heavy, very, I think those three. And then
this might be like not a New Year's resolution, but like something we can do in 2022.
So guys,
damn, she proper said it on the pod. Now I can't go back against
look out for look out for it.
No, I think that, because I think especially doing it with the intention of like talking about it afterwards.
Yeah.
And like,
I think that would be quite,
seeing what I thought and how I felt and stuff like that. Especially because what we spoke about, that I feel like, what's the word, like
pushback.
Yeah, like as in I'm a bit like, I don't know why, but I just don't want to like. So yeah, like doing it and then having a chat about it would be cool.
Yeah,
we could do a little. We should. Yeah. I'll talk. We'll do it because I do the capsule every week on a Monday. We could like, you can come over and we could do that.
Yeah.
Like that could be one episode rather than doing a whole 2-hour pod. We could just do a quick chat about it. That'd be sick.
I'm
making plans.
Please let me know when you're going to Homebros and Essie's, because I need to be there.
I need you to come with me and hold my hand.
I need to,
because I'm gonna be a pussy about it.
I need to be there. Do you know what? Yeah, I actually low-key think like you enjoy it.
You know my biggest problem, right? And help me out with this now and make me feel better. Is like any class, I can't go into it personality first. Like I've got to go into it just for the moves, and it's like if I'm gonna do locking, don't make me smile and do the character. Like just teach me the fucking moves and let me like execute.
Just teach me the fucking moves.
Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want to play the character yet. Like let me find my place in it, because for me it's like what you said, like it's a process to put yourself into the moves. So I'm like, give me the moves and I'll figure out my way. But when people are like, oh yeah, just laugh and smile and do it like this, and I get like, one thing at a time, please.
You won't necessarily find that with Essie's class because it's so intricate.
Yeah,
like that's honestly, even me, it's so intricate. But so I think you may actually maybe enjoy that the most, because it's just very much
like execute.
It is
the
what
moves,
it is, and then I mean, I'm not going to be like, oh, make you smile and stuff, but I am very like heavy on the, I need to see you. Otherwise, I don't care about what you're doing.
I'll still give it. I'll still give it a go. That's just my usual, like I did some, a couple of whacking workshops.
Did you?
Yeah. I've done like, I think probably like dancehall and Afro are the only things I haven't done like at least one class in.
Yeah.
I don't think
Who did you working with?
I did 2 workshops with Kamari.
Oh, you went straight in for the...
Yeah, quite a while back. Because I was like, oh, everyone was telling me like she's someone. So I was like, all right, well, fuck it. If I'm going to learn from someone. And obviously Jen does whacking. So I've learned bits from her.
How did you find it?
When it was movement execution, I like it first. Because it's like, Kamari did a bit of both. So she did like drills and like, especially with all my popping and stuff, it's like all arm stuff. I like drilling and trying to make it clean and figuring out the intricacies of the moves. But when it was the like, all right, now we're going to learn how to do this and pose and I'm like, I don't want to do this now. Like, let me figure out executing the moves. Like, don't just, I don't know, like it's also too soon, but I also just don't enjoy that, because I feel like that process is a lot longer for me.
Okay. All right.
To put my personality, I can't just fake it. And like, even like doing popping or if I was to do house now, it's like, I don't know, teach me the moves. Once I have some moves, then take me to a club and teach me about the culture. Like, so then I can participate with something rather than, maybe I'm doing this backwards, but it's like, I don't know, I just don't like trying to fake it and then figure out my way.
I get what you mean. Boy, you might struggle with Afro then.
I'll try it though, fuck it.
Because they kind of go like hand in hand. But what I've found is, well, for me anyway, like that shit happens now. You won't even know what the fuck is happening to you. Like I just, well, for me, if you go to a really good class in Afro, regardless what dance style they're teaching you, and they are teaching you the shit, like they won't even need to say, but like you'll find yourself doing all sorts of shit that you're like, why the fuck is my face moving like that?
It's like, I guess doing crump, it's like I'm not a massive fan of doing crump either, but it's similar where it's like, I think it's also the teacher, because I did crump with Ricardo and I did crump with Dwayne.
Okay.
Those, I think I've done like maybe total 3 like workshops in Crump. It's definitely not really for me, but they didn't teach it in a way like they tried to force you to like use your face or shout or something. They just taught you to execute, but because the moves require something from you, you put some emphasis in, and I didn't feel like I had to force it or to like act a character. It was just like, okay, I can be me and I don't have to go over the top and just execute the moves.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, if I felt like that, I think I'll be all right.
Yeah, I think
but I'm down to try anyway. Even if I feel uncomfortable, it's like, fuck it.
It's good vibes, man. It can be intimidating though. Like a few people said, like people who've never tried it before have said it. Before you walk in, it can feel like, fuck.
Yeah.
What the hell is about to happen right now? Especially when you're in a room full of people who are like just going for it and they're just like in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it, but it's good vibes.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, I always, when I'm nervous about something, I always try and put it in perspective. It's like, it's not like you're asking me to fly a plane.
No.
You're asking me to dance. I know how to dance. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just slightly out of my comfort zone. It's not like you just put me in a helicopter and said, all right, figure it out. I'm like, then I'd be nervous.
To be fair, like if you told me, okay, Olu, like we're gonna go to a popping jam, I will die right now. I will actually collapse.
Or if I said like, you've got to enter, all right, yeah, here we go. Wait. All right, we've hit on something. I'll do the Afro if you got to like enter a battle or something. Come on, I'll go to Afro class if you enter a popping battle.
Do you want me to
Come
die?
on.
I will actually move out of London.
I'll do it with you.
I will move out of London.
What do you mean? How can you just issue me a challenge and then...
I will actually move out of London. Do you know that I will actually collapse?
Oh, you're killing me.
Not just
You'd be fine.
Not even all styles. I'm popping.
Okay, also, wait.
Are you
No,
mad?
you can't do also because then you can just do Afro. You actually probably do well. That's not fair.
What? No, yo.
You've actually probably killed an all-stars battle.
You want Sean to disown me as well. Sean will actually disown me.
Oh my God.
That's
so funny.
No.
All right, wait. What about if we change the challenge? What about, to start with, let's say we go to the class thing after. What if we could even do this as a thing. Like, we shouldn't be planning this on the pod, but what if we do like 2 videos? And we do but we talk about why we're doing it, not just like, and you teach me an Afro thing, we'll film it and put it, even if it's just on our phone, and then I'll teach you like a hip hop or popping routine and we'll do it and put it out just for fun. And then we can talk about like why we're both doing
but
it.
what if the people in the popping scene, like, what if they start cussing me out?
They won't. Well, what if the people in the Afro scene cuss me out? Aha!
Nah, I feel like there's more chances of the popping.
No
I
way.
feel like Sean will be like, I mean, I'm not clueless.
No.
Like, we
could actually make something sick.
I can do a little something. I'm not clueless, but do you know that anyway, actually.
Well, I'm not even really the one to be teaching popping, but like maybe a hip hop. Come on, hip hop's easy.
All right.
Anyone can fucking do hip hop.
No, you say hip hop, but you're everyone's is different. All right, I'm down for that.
Yeah, we'll start there. We'll do, and we can even like talk about it and explain why we did it.
Yeah,
and then it doesn't seem so randomly out of context, because I don't want a random like, hey, I made an Afro video, guys.
Hey, it's me.
Yeah, I'd be down.
Okay, I'll be down for that.
Yeah, sick.
Oh God.
Well, I think that's a clue to wrap up.
That was a good time.
I'll turn it on. I think we're in like...
So, were you in a classroom before? Was it like a classroom?
Yeah.
Was it the same thing?
It looks the same, but it never turns off. It's the one upstairs.
It must be set on.
We've been doing this for a while though. Also,
what time is it?
9:30. Anyway, so let's
Yeah. Do we need to say anything in particular to wrap up?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know even if I was going to ask you anything else, but I feel like. Yeah, I mean, I feel like me and you could do like a 4-hour pod.
Yeah, probably.
There's so many things that like
Yeah, for those who don't know, I don't know if I mentioned in the beginning, but like I was in Toy Box for a little while. And Toy Box, for those who don't know Toy Box, you should be ashamed of yourself.
There's probably not that many people.
But if you do, like Toy Box was a group that Luke ran with Sammy and
Tav.
Yeah. And Luke was a fucking drill sergeant.
Was I? I don't remember that. Was I actually?
The only nice one was What was his name again?
Tav.
Yeah, he was the only nice one.
Oh, to you, he was the drill sergeant to us. Right, yeah.
To me, like he was like always like super lovely.
My God.
And I used to struggle in toy box because it was like super different to like the other stuff that I was doing, like with like Ken. Even like with I was training with ergonomics, which was under Unity at the time. But it was so different, and I think I told you that I thought that you used to hate me.
Yeah. No, but because we used to do stuff with us, so I definitely wouldn't have wanted to do stuff with you if I didn't like it.
I
know. But no, I think oh man, like 18, 19-year-old me was super different. Like I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
And you used to like go all the way back to flipping Watford.
Yeah. There was a time when I first joined Ruthless, when I was going to college in Amersham, which is even further out than Watford.
Oh my God.
And then I used to train in Woolwich Dockyard.
Oh, I used to hate coming fucking Woolwich. Oh my God.
In the YMCA. Did you ever train there?
Yeah. Why is it here?
Because it was free. But I used to do like 2 hours there, 4 hours training, 2 hours back, and then get up for college the next morning. This was like when I was still excited to like.
Yo, we used to do some mad stuff for training.
Yeah, like outdoors in car parks and all that. Like
we literally had no like the struggles that we have now and the studio prices. Now, what's a studio price?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's a studio price now?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, what's a studio price? Like, yeah, let's just meet outside South Bank, which we have there.
Yeah.
Man.
It's mad. Yeah, so me and Olu go way back. Is the moral of the story. Legit, like, yeah, you were like, there's in the dance scene, and I don't think about this often, but like, there's not, I never think about like who I would consider like my peers in terms of, I think about it in terms of like, okay, me being a hip hop dancer, like I see like Kieran, Kashmir, people like that as my peers or as a popper or whatever. But in terms of like generations or like who I started with, and it was legit like you, Chloe Dean, like you, I don't know when exactly we all started and joined the scene, and even like Glenn Hudson and people like that who I know he was like, he started before me, but like you got like, you, Glenn, Chloe, even like Tashan from Unity, who started before me, but like who else was around that time? Like the Wet Wipes guys. This was like my generation of like 2007, 2010.
In the same place as Wet Wipes at one point, right? In the place in not Tottenham, Seven Sisters. Bernie,
Kim's old thing.
Why was everyone's rehearsal so far?
Yeah.
Like,
because it was like 3 studios.
Oh my God, it was like the Woolwich. And
yeah.
And then Seven Sisters, and then Tashan, they were rehearsing in like, I think it was like Forest Gate. And I think at the time I was living in Roehampton.
Oh wow.
And I was just like, why is everyone's rehearsal so far?
And every class was at Huskies.
On every class.
Yo, we used to, this is just like memory lane now, but like we used to do a 3-hour class for £5.
I was just about to say, I can't remember who I was talking to. And I was just like, you lot are huffing and puffing after an hour and a half. And
we used to do 2 routines. It was like, rather than doing like, I don't know if what it's like now of like, I don't think there's 3-hour classes, is there?
No. Now that's called a workshop.
Yeah. But it used to be like, even like Tony's every Sunday and flowography on Wednesdays, or those ones at Huskies would be 3 hours, and it would be 2 routines, a warm up and 2 routines.
That you and
for a £5,
and it weren't no like 4-8 routine either.
No, yeah, it was like
saying,
decent.
These were like full on, full on routine. Like
I remember my first like progression was like make it to the end of the routine. Like when I first started taking class, I was like, I took this like easy beginner classes, and then when I started doing like those professional level classes, it was like, okay, cool. I can remember. Like at the end when we're showing, it's like I can get halfway through and then I've forgotten the rest. And I'm like, when I finally started getting the entire routine, I was like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. Yeah.
I made it.
Yeah. But yeah.
Oh man. I don't know when the hour and a half thing, who was the first.
I wonder if it was when Huskies got new management. Because didn't they get new management and up the prices at one point?
They did.
Because I remember that being a bit of a shift. Like whoever the original owners were when we were there, that used to be like dirt cheap prices, and then I just found out like, oh, someone's bought Huskies or someone's took over, and then the prices went up, and I remember there was less stuff there, and it started to change when that happened.
Yeah, but I
are the dogs even there anymore?
Who?
The dogs? Is there still Huskies there? They used to be part of the fun of going there.
Have you not been to Huskies?
Not
now
for a while.
2 minutes before your time is up, so they can control the music from the reception. So they don't even have to come in. So before they would come in and be like, you need to get out.
Yeah.
But now
They just...
you'll be dancing and it's like 2 minutes to the time you're supposed to finish, and the music will just...
They do that at Pirate. Have you been?
Do they? I've only been to one in Hackney.
Yeah, that's where there's only that in Wembley for the studios. But they even with the podcast studios, it's like they give, if you're 15 minutes over, then they cut it. Because I was doing the pod with Saskia, and we were like 15 minutes over the time, and everything just turned off. And I was like, okay, that's what happened. Wow. Same with the dance studios. I don't know if there's someone watching or if it's on a timer.
Maybe it's on a timer, I don't know. But it's the most funniest, because I've been in some like classes or rehearsals, and you'll be halfway and you're like, okay, last time, guys. And you're going off, like you're going full out. And then the music just cuts off and you're like,
well, see you next week.
Okay, well, that's that then. Thank you very much. That's great. Yeah, they are savage.
That's so funny.
And the prices are...
gone up.
Yeah, they're not.
But yeah, it's always it's inevitable, isn't it? Because like
it is what
like
it is, though.
Things cost more. I don't know, inflation and all that adult shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should probably wrap up because people are coming and kicking us out, and if that won't happen, the lights will turn off again. So I don't know how much of this is going to be in the pod.
Yeah, I know.
It might be all of it. I might just leave it, and we'll see how bad it looks.
It was nice to talk, though. Thank you so much for having me.
Yo, thank you so much for coming.
It was nice to be on here and
agreeing to chat with me. It's super nice.
I look forward to our challenge.
Yeah.
2022.
Fuck. Why is that said on a recording now? I can't go back.
I'm excited. I'm actually excited. I can't believe you tried to say battle.
Imagine like we do the Afro video and I like show up in like proper like traditional African dress. You're like, no.
I will die.
Just
like Luke. Please tell me you've got joggers in your bag right now.
Got what? Joggers?
Please tell me you've got joggers and a t-shirt in your bag. I would die.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what Britain's Got Talent. That's what Britain's Got Talent tried to make people do.
What?
It's like,
what do you mean?
Britain's Got Talent.
Like if you do Afro, they try to make you dress like.
It's like, guys, like
I can just imagine like a fucking like
a lion
producer from so we found this thing called a dashiki. Do you know what they are? Are you gonna wear the do-rags?
Yeah, like come on, like really.
That's so
meanwhile,
fucking
here I
funny.
am, like in my hoodie and like.
Did they actually? What, to you or to someone that you know?
Well, I mean, I haven't actually done Britain's Got Talent, but there was a show.
That tried to like.
There was a show.
Ham it up.
Yeah, and I've seen it. I've just seen it happen.
That's so funny.
Like, guys, like not every country in Africa has like a zebra walking down the road. Like
we don't feel this is culturally appropriating enough. Can we?
Yeah. Can we just add a bit more hyenas? Just add in some like it's giving Lion King, and I don't like that.
No, did it? No, they didn't say that. No. Oh, okay. Fuck me. Lion King, yeah. Wow.
Oh God, that is too funny.
That would be hilarious.
Too funny. But yeah.
Anyway, yeah, no, I super appreciate you coming.
Yeah, no,
thank you so much for like being here, having the conversation, giving up your time. I'm super happy to hear about the freelance stuff because I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
And super excited to see what you do and like, I said it when we DM'd anyway, but like to be completely like vulnerable. Nice. I'm like super happy to see you do well. Like I've always thought you're a good person and like I don't know, like I'm happy to see everyone do well, but you know, and it's just like an extra level of like when you like someone's succeeding but you know they're good people, it's like it means a little bit more. You know what I mean?
That means a lot, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm grateful for everyone who's ever part of you, part of it. Ken, Rhymes, or everyone who's ever contributed. Thank you. Man. I feel like I'm receiving an award. Like, calm down, Olu. All he said was well done. Like,
we're giving
a speech.
Look, I've decided to give you the Afro award for.
Thank you very much. Jan, take notes. because the last time we did the Dancers Award, like I didn't win anything. I don't like that.
Did you get nominated?
I did get nominated.
But you didn't win?
No.
Who won against you?
Ola.
And what was the...
How dare you, Ola?
What was the category?
I think it was...
Afro,
this was a while ago, though.
Afro
no,
Queen.
it wasn't anything to do. It was like female studio choreographer. I don't know what that is, but it's female studio choreographer.
Pitting females against each other.
That's
disgusting.
Cute. I like him.
No, we need a capsule award. We'll think about it.
I feel like that would be intense. There might be some fighting.
Depends what
you shake the table on this shit.
I like that. Do I?
Yeah.
I like that.
You shake the locking one. I was like... because I saw it, yeah. And then I was like, oh, like maybe it's just like, I was like, let me not.
Yeah.
And then it was just, and I was like, and then Sean was putting up like loads of, and then I went on, I don't even follow Cashmere, but then I went on Cashmere because I was like, I didn't see what's going on. And then Brooke.
You know what's dope though?
It was a interesting.
I think the two things for me that I really like and I think are a huge compliment is like, A, that people engage at all. Because the fact that these conversations have been brought up, but the fact that people come to the page and like want to engage on what I've put is a great compliment because it feels like it's worth their time.
Yeah,
and B, that everybody in a like airy-fairy way to say it, like they kind of respect the space. No one's been a dick.
No.
Everyone's been like,
I didn't see any.
This is a place for not coming to cuss each other. Like it's not like, I don't know, fucking shade room or something. It's like we're coming here to have a conversation. And so for me, I'm like, I don't know, it's a massive compliment to me. And I said this a few times, but just to say it again, like people that are involved in these conversations and anyone that comments or gets involved, it's like it feels like they're respecting what I'm trying to do by engaging.
Onto something here. Like I think it's.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Yeah, I think it's dope. And like even just you put out like a what's happening in street, like and the people who are doing like shows or like and I think that's so dope as well. Like even the tiny because some people just don't even know that things like that are happening. It's a good way to bring in the support.
Let me get some funding. Let me get some funding and see what happens. Like,
right?
I'm trying.
You planning on?
I've got rejected from a few, but working on it.
I can only I haven't delved into applying for funding yet because the anxiety of just even looking at the forms is just
I'm working on it. I'm working on a business model and stuff. So it's like this is what I get so like depressed and then so happy because it's like in moments like this where you're like, oh, things are, I'm like, this is me with no funding, working for free, having no time for this. Like, wait until I get money behind this.
I know.
Like, if people are happy with it already, I'm even more gassed about what I could do with some money behind it. But then I get super depressed because I'm like, what the fuck am I working on this so much for free? But like for what,
how long has it been?
Well, the capsule's been 2 months, but the podcast this will be 2 years. So, I mean, one of them was a pandemic year, but to get 50, we're coming. To get 50 done in.
I mean, I knew you'd done a lot, but I didn't think it was like 50.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And like I said, like some of them were with 4 people. So I've had like, I don't know, I'm going to count it up, but like quite a few. I'll tell you the next 2 when we turn off because I'm excited about the next 2. Fingers crossed they both happen how I want them to happen.
Envision it,
But I'll tell you when we don't record in case they don't happen. I have to replace people. But I'm still excited about whoever is on, even if I have to replace people.
Yeah.
But all right, we got to wrap up because we keep getting kicked out. And so thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you to the University of East London Urban Practice Degree and Joe for having us. As usual. Sorry we're running late. Everybody check out thecapsule.ldn on Instagram and YouTube, which you're already on, so click down somewhere here and like check out some of the other fucking podcasts and stuff. And please subscribe you can follow the Insta for sure. Please subscribe to the YouTube. I'll tell you why, if you're listening this far, because I found out I can only live stream through YouTube when I get 1,000 followers. So I've been live streaming on Insta for like events and stuff that I've been at, but I can only do on my mobile phone, I can only do live streaming through YouTube when I get to 1,000 followers. So please, I mean, I'm way off 1,000, but like, because I want to go to events and set my phone up and just do it live. And on Insta is like, you watch for a bit, but then you want to get on with like scrolling and stuff. YouTube, you can kind of put it on your laptop and leave it. So, and there's a lot more stuff I can do once I can live stream and I can offer that to events. So help me out, guys. Tell a friend, subscribe on YouTube, just because it will help me get that milestone. All right, anyway, let's go before they get angry at us. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for listening, and catch you next week.
Bye.